Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Abington Conservation Commission meeting. The time is 6:31 PM. It's November 12th, 2024. So first up on the agenda is a request for certificate of compliance located at 714 Bedford Street. Is there anybody here? Please come on up and introduce yourself, name and address.
Good evening, folks. Jim Borback from OHI Engineering. We prepared the final construction drawing, which was provided. Work inside or affecting the buffer zones all been done according to plan. We did make a couple of minor changes in areas that had already been paved, but there was no change to stormwater conveyance. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Any questions from the board?
Where is that? I'm not familiar with that.
That's a dental building.
The dentist office,
Used to be where the old
Yes.
lighting place was,
Okay.
across from Shaw Ave.
Oh, that's
Right
right.
by
Yeah,
Shaw.
you had to come in and make some changes. That's-
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the only thing was that making sure that the grass was growing was that, sorry, the only thing that we needed to make certain was the grass was growing? Is that it? Yeah,
Yeah, I drove through the parking lot about a week or so ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
I drove by on my way home and took a peek and,
I did too. A lot of eyes going by.
okay.
I'm good with that.
I am too.
All right. Any other questions? Bringing it to the audience. Anybody have anything to say about the property? Okay, bring it back to the board.
I'd make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance.
I second.
714 Bedford.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay,
Thank you very much, folks. Have a great evening.
you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next, request for certificate of compliance located at 1065 Bedford Street. Mr. Goslin isn't here, but Jean,
I went by that one
Okay.
today too, because I was working up the street.
Oh, I was there today.
Yeah, I didn't see you there, but I did pull in quickly. Mr. Goslin does some nice work.
He does.
Yeah,
I went out there and I took some pictures.
yeah.
There were a couple of things that I just wanted to mention. I thought in the original plan, when he submitted it to us, that the shed was going to be removed, but it looks like it's staying and they're re-siding it. And the conservation sign here isn't according to what our regulations say. It's supposed to be an 8.5 by 11 sign. The post is fine, the sign is just wrong. Correct me
It
if I'm
actually
wrong.
calls for an 8.5 by 11.
Yes, it
Yep.
does. I printed it off. I think I have it here. It's right in the regulations right here.
No, I believe you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't know if he was going to be here, so I wasn't sure myself, but I'm like, it says right here.
The only reason I asked is that one on Brockton Ave, the duplex that we had the problem with.
Yep.
They're 8.5 by 11?
I believe they are.
Really?
Yep,
One's in rubber English are as well.
yep, the ones on Rubber English too.
Oh, that's fine.
But, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we were out there, I think Lynn was there too. I remember the drainage wattles there were kept. I didn't know that it was gonna be this much higher as far as the driveway and the garage, because it was quite steep. That was my only thing that I saw. It's probably like a 2.5, 3-foot drop down to where the regular land was. I didn't know it was gonna, because on this side, it comes in and it goes down, but then it goes right back up again. Other than that, it looks really nice. So I did have the question on the shed, because I think in the original plan that we accepted, he was gonna remove that. And Justin, didn't you?
I recall that conversation as well. I don't remember it being written in the plan, but I remember the conversation, him saying they were gonna remove the
Yeah.
shed.
So that was the only thing that I saw, that was, and the signage. And how high it was.
But
I
just
mean-
correct me
Well,
if I'm wrong.
if the engineer, what's the engineer say about how high
Well,
it is?
he doesn't really say much, just, hey, here it is. And he doesn't say what changes were made. But Justin, I think you were speaking, so didn't want to cut you off.
Well, I was just, I mean, I think, obviously we can ask them to redo the signs. I don't know what we're able to do in terms of the shed. Like, I don't know if that should be a big talking point for us, or if it's something we don't have control over anyway, so.
It was something I saw, and it was
Yeah.
something I remember.
Yep, understood.
And is it within the no build?
It is in the 35 no disturb.
I don't understand why he's keeping it if he said he was gonna knock it down. And like,
It looks like the siding in the picture is underneath the vines, so I wonder if that's old.
I don't know.
It looks like a little older.
Maybe he's still planning on putting it down.
Well, I think,
Well-
I don't think there's any hurry for the certificate here. I don't believe he's selling it.
Correct.
He's keeping it for rental. So why don't we get our questions together and ask him,
yeah.
all right?
Sounds like a good idea.
And he doesn't even have to come to the next meeting if he
Right.
doesn't want to. Just answer the questions and then we'll issue it
Right.
then.
All right, then we'll go ahead and.
Continue that.
John, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and continue
Yeah.
to the next meeting, okay? Can I get a,
Lynn, are you gonna send the questions out just to get a,
yes, I will send the
I
questions
mean, I
out.
don't have a problem with the COC so long as the questions are answered and we kind of understand what.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so if you guys want to email me your questions about it, and then
Sure.
I'll send them all together,
all right,
and we'll go from there for the next meeting.
okay.
So can I get a motion?
Motion to continue the certificate of compliance for 1065 Bedford Street to the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. Okay, thank you. Moving on, discussion on ANRAD, 0 Shaw Avenue, filed by Manny Ramos, Shaw Avenue Realty Partners LLC. Anybody here for that? Last thing I heard was that the wetlands delineation was supposed to be done on last Tuesday by, our peer reviewer was gonna be checking on it. Have not heard anything since.
You have not heard anything?
No, he hasn't said anything.
And they haven't been here for quite a while. Well, they did show up at the last meeting, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll just go ahead, I think, and continue it. Anybody here for 0 Shaw Avenue again? No? Okay. All right, can I get a motion for that?
Motion to continue 0 Show Avenue to our
Second.
next conservation meeting.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. All right. Moving next to discussion and possible vote on dependable tree located at 837 Randolph Street. Anybody there? From dependable? No, okay.
So what's the situation there? When were they supposed to get back to us?
So the situation is that Jean had noted that, what was it, back in late April, they had made some comments regarding a certain area that would require restoration.
Yep.
And now they're saying there shouldn't be any restoration.
Correct.
And they want to
um,
move that stream.
We actually have the meeting minutes for April 30th in our packet.
Oh, I'm
for
sorry, I was thinking Hanson Tree, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
no.
next.
They're
So
next,
this is dependable. And again, their wetland scientist did say there was a hydrological connection, and that was at timestamp 2212. The owner, Wagner Oliveira, did speak at timestamp 2301 and said that it could go back to whatever we wanted, that he was under the impression it should have been,
It's him, right?
oh,
Oh, there he is.
that's Mr. Donahoe right
yeah.
now.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess we'll wait.
Okay.
Wanna bump
Excellent.
this?
Do we want to go ahead and just skip while he's getting sorted?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You can back up.
So we'll come back to this
Okay.
until we'll start discussion and possible vote on Hanson Tree located at 832 Randolph Street.
Okay.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Mic'd up? Is this on? No.
Yeah.
So for the public record, my name is David Cowell. I'm a senior wetland scientist with Hancock Associates on behalf of Hanson Tree. This is a continued public hearing in the matter of an enforcement order that was issued for encroachments into wetlands pertaining to their site. As we had last left off at the last hearing, we had presented a restoration plan. I think that it was widely accepted with the exception for, there were some questions stemming from the last conversation that we had. One of which was, we had proposed to put an earthen berm with trees in it around the outside perimeter. We were asked by the commission if we could evaluate whether or not there's something more structural that we could do there, such as like a block wall, retaining wall. Since that conversation, I've had time to talk to my client. We still feel that that's a bit impracticable and quite expensive. To couple that, the other question that we had was sort of operations and maintenance moving forward. How do we prevent this from happening in the future, and how do we demarcate this? And maybe by use of the property, there's commitments that the client can make to prevent encroachments in the future. And with that, I was hoping to talk about those items tonight and then see what remaining questions might be and what we have. I did print a few full-size plans. Again, these are just for, I'll just put one to every 2 people or so.
That's fine.
If you guys want to look along. So, I do want to point out, I am attended tonight by Chris Hansen. Chris Hansen, correct me if I'm wrong, by title, you're Vice President of Operations for the company. So Chris has a very good handle on the day-to-day operations out here, how things are made. And we've talked a bit in previous conversations about what would really kill the business out there and what won't. And I know there were some questions, you've said that, how can you demonstrate that? So I've asked Chris to at least be party to this tonight to answer some of those questions. So on this is the plan that you guys have in front of you. There hasn't been any changes to the plan since the last visit. Some of the reasons that we feel that the earthen berm with the trees is a better, more cost-effective option and will still be effective, which is important here, is there's a number of things. One is the material that I found deposited in the wetland was really limited to wood chips. On the northern side of the site, you can see that there was some earthen material that is more historic, but isn't the aggregate materials like sand or gravel or stone. It's mostly wood chips, and wood chips, of course, are buoyant. So I think that having talked to Chris, we could move the location where he currently stores mulch, and he can create a container for the mulch. As I understand, Chris, you have a container now, or they're in a bin. But we can certainly find a location that would, maybe be a little further away. In fact, sorry, I don't want to walk away from the mic because I'll speak loudly. So currently, as you guys observed, the stockpiles were on this back side down here, which, and you can see this is where most of the encroachments into the wetland, that's the singular line type coming down, is where the wetland encroachment had occurred. In conversations with the client, we can move our stockpiles up closer to Randolph Road, which would create much further distance, and by grade, this does go this direction, we could designate stockpiling areas up here and private stockpiling down here in the future. The other thing is, Chris had clarified for me, is that they don't really use stockpiles for aggregate materials. It's either wood chips or logs, timber. The timber's not going to go anywhere. It's right. Sort of fixed. It won't migrate during rain events. The mulch may migrate during rain events, which is what we're concerned about. So how can we put those in a container and do that? But I don't think that we need several hundred feet of concrete wall around the outer perimeter. The other thing too, during the last hearing, it based on our site visits, I think it was interpreted that there was an area that they had tried that once before, that there were some trees with mounding around it, and that in conversation with Chris, that was not an earthen berm with trees that failed. They merely had leftover trees and had put them out there. So what we
Right.
observed to be trees wasn't an attempt to
Yeah,
do
we
the
didn't
earthen
think
berm.
it was
That
a
didn't work.
berm. We
Okay.
just thought it was trees that were not very well
Okay.
planted. Yeah.
So that's it. So with that in mind, I would like the Conservation Commission to reconsider the earthen berm. These have trees at 10-foot off centers. It would be 6 foot wide by 3 feet in height. It would be vegetated with, we're still considering it part of the restoration area where box elders, which we propose to put in, are native species, and we would have a native seed mix to apply to the earthen berm that comprises of native seed mixes. We proposed a blend of its conservation restoration mix for dry sites from New England wetland plants. And we can blend that with conservation wildlife mix to enhance at least some herbaceous habitat value on the earthen berm. And then with that, we really get into sort of operations and maintenance. I've asked the client questions like, do you guys have a spill kit? He said that they're in process of obtaining one. I've asked them how they've managed their snow in the past to make sure that they're not just pushing and plowing snow directly into the wetland. He said that they can stockpile snow basically anywhere that they have on site that's outside of the berm. And again, the berm would be effective at having trees and even signage if you guys would like.
So stockpiling the snow anywhere on that property, how's that going to affect the turning radius of the trucks that are going in and out? Whereas you say that a 35-foot no disturb is going to deter him from being able to run a business, but yet you can stockpile snow anywhere and your truck's still not going to have a problem?
We could designate a snow
I was just
stockpile
asking
area.
the question, that's all.
No, I don't think that having this area available, as long as it's beyond the berm, we could pick an area and say this is where your snow stockpile area would be.
So quickly looking at what you just presented with us tonight, because
Yes.
this is our first time looking at it.
Sure.
You're only proposing a 10-foot setback?
This is not the first, we presented this before.
Right.
This is not a new plan.
Right,
Yep.
okay.
And, and this plan was, I don't want to walk backwards, this plan was widely accepted at the last meeting. And yes, we're proposing to restore the wetland, a 10-foot setback. Again, we had talked about that we really can't go all the way back to the 35-foot no disturb. In the context that this site is also existing non-conforming such that they've had this surface area for decades, likely predating enactment of the wetland bylaw. So what we're affording is, it would be a 16-foot setback. It would include a 10-foot setback of naturalized upland area coming back from the wetland, and then an additional 6 feet to include the berm. The berm would be 6 feet wide by 3 foot high, and that would be naturalized. So it would be a 16-foot setback.
You also note on your plans that you want to use straw wattles straw bales.
What's that?
Is that what it says, straw wattles? Oh, okay.
Yeah, installs.
Yeah, straw,
Okay.
fiber rolls
Okay.
or?
Okay.
So one of the things about going out of business, and I mentioned this to you earlier, is that when you look at aerial photography, you can see that decades ago, they weren't in here. They were able to operate their
Right.
business without as much space as they currently have.
Yep.
So that's why I start to think, I get a little, not quite believe that that will go out of business
Okay,
if they have more of a buffer.
great.
The aerial photography, are you looking at the Mass Map one or Google Earth?
It's,
Right.
it's aerial photography
Sure.
from that, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Because it's just the
I'm happy to look at
photography.
historic aerial
Yeah.
photography,
I
but
just drew a
understand that
little
it's,
And, I color coded it, like, okay, there it is in yellow in 1990, this is what it looked like now.
Yep.
That sort of thing. So
okay,
you can see the encroachment over time.
right.
And my point is, I don't know when, I think the business was, when I looked at the 1990s.
When did you start the
aerial,
business here?
Yeah,
Purchased the business in 2009.
2019.
That's it.
And who owned it before? Was it the same type of business?
So where,
Okay.
So when did Hanson Tree move in there? Is-
We've been there probably 25 years.
Okay.
25 years.
Okay, so my point is, and the rest of the board may not agree with me, at that time, they did not have a 35-foot setback. Like you said, it's existing non-conforming.
Right.
I don't think we can go around to every business in town and say, now you gotta move everything back 35 feet. That's not the intent of the law. That's not the way zoning laws work. So this is not a new plan, this is not a new business coming before us looking for permission to do this business here. This is an existing business, and they need to clean it up. I'm not arguing that point.
Right.
But I don't think legally we can enforce the 35-foot no-touch zone in this.
I'm not
Just
sure
my
about that,
opinion.
Because we have jurisdiction of the 100,
We do, that's right.
and so we could.
But this
always-
35-foot went in after they purchased the property. Just my opinion.
Sure.
Right, I appreciate that. Right. And again, you know, I don't want to say I have some concerns about walking backwards. At the last hearing we had, I thought that the wetland restoration plan was largely accepted as proposed with the.
Well, we did
with the-
talk about putting the,
Right, with the
concrete.
remaining question of the concrete
Right.
wall in the operations plan, which I believe we were coming in tonight to talk about, which would be the wall and operations and maintenance. So
and what we
it-
said last time, and what we're still concerned about,
Right.
is there's nothing to stop the trucks from going into that berm or anything like that,
Right,
you know?
And yeah, how is that going to be enforced? I mean, because, you know, even with the trees that they just stuck out there, I mean, in the turning radius of these giant 18-wheelers with the big mulch carriers, and they had the ramp with, you know, dumping it in, they're gonna run, I mean, how do you, I mean, without having to go by there every so often and look and see if it's still okay, I mean, where, how?
it's going to have trees at 10 foot off centers. If a truck were to strike one of those, it would have to take a tree down. We'd notice if the trees are coming down because.
How big are the trees you're gonna plant?
Well, I think reasonable to start them off is 2-inch caliber trees. One of the specific reasons I selected box elder is that they're fast growing, that they are resilient to disturbance, such as an area like this. They're native, they provide some habitat value, but obviously you can't put in a 24-inch diameter
No,
tree.
How tall is the
set these up.
2-inch diameter box elder? I don't know.
Yes.
Oh, maybe 10 feet in height to start off with?
This has minimum 6 feet, so we
Yeah.
Is
usually
that what it
say
says?
6 to 8.
Yeah.
We can give it a caliper, or we can increase it to 8-foot
see
height.
that.
That's fair? Right?
Can I ask, you mentioned 3 feet high on the earthen berm, but I see in your plan it's a peak height of 1 foot. That's in row 19 in the section about the earthen berm. And it looks like in your diagrams too, the actual
1 feet in
picture
height.
of it, looks like it's about a foot tall as well. So should that be altered to be 3 feet?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good catch. Yep, nope,
Okay.
that should be 3 feet height.
Okay.
So happy to revise that.
Okay.
Now, another option, now, Chris would know more about trucks coming and going and their turning radiuses. Another option that Chris had mentioned was in lieu of a block retaining wall that's 6 feet in height, he could put boulders around the berm. Would that be something amenable to?
Around the inside of the berm.
Right.
Do you mean instead of trees or?
No,
No.
not in lieu of trees. In addition to, we would have the
kind
3
of
foot
show the
height
concrete wall.
trees, and then boulders on the
be,
forward-facing
I
site.
would be
That'd probably
more
be better than
inclined
walls
and
and-
happy to hear about boulders, because
Yeah.
if a truck hits a boulder, then you're gonna be costing the company
yeah.
money if you ruin your truck.
And how big boulders are we talking about? Like how
I don't know, Chris.
tall, wide,
Boulders?
I'm assuming
3 feet,
3 foot
yeah.
and how tall?
tall. It'd be about a 3 by 3.
3 by 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit 'em, just,
Yeah.
and
That would be good, yeah, I'd be happy with that.
So the idea is trees interspersed with the boulders?
Well, the boulders along the,
Boulders on the forward-facing side of the berm.
Of the berm.
along
Yep.
of the berm.
Yep, and the trees still at 10-foot up centers
Yeah.
on top of the, so you'd have boulders and then a 3-foot tall berm with trees. Right. And if you elect, we can put signage as well. It's-
Yeah, I think we'll want
Yeah.
the signage out there
Yeah,
too.
yeah, wetland resource area beyond this point, no
Yeah.
disturb, something of that nature.
Yeah, we have.
We have a regulation where it actually says it's an 8.5 by 11 sign, and it's on a 4x4, 4-foot tall, pressure-treated.
Posts, so you could
Okay, yeah,
put a
some
few of
towns
those
have
along.
a standard for signage.
Granite.
Or
Yeah.
you could use granite.
Right,
We have an example on the website
Yep.
of the sign.
Yeah,
So
Sure.
so you could do, you know, stagger those around.
yep,
You
yeah,
know.
maybe every 25 feet or so, or, yep, we'll carry them so that there's enough that they're visible,
Right,
legible.
yeah. So the employees know too, you know, so.
Right.
Okay.
So are we able to vote pending changes, or do we need to ask them to come back to after changes are made? Sorry, go ahead.
I just have a question on that steel Conex box. You've got it right where the trees are being planted. Is that going to stay where it is? I'm just
No.
looking at your
Is that
plan.
moving with the wood chips
No,
and
that's
the
just,
mulch?
that's existing
That's
condition
existing.
underlaid over there, that's not proposed. We
Okay.
would just move those boxes beyond the extent of where the berm would be. Right.
And to answer your question, I think we could vote, and then have him submit a new plan with everything we're talking about tonight, if that's what the motion was.
Or we could just have him change the plan,
Send it.
come back next time, vote.
That's fair.
I mean,
Yep.
because I'm looking at the sizes of the
Yeah,
trees and the
Yeah, so-
shrubs. I'd like those to be
I
like.
mean,
I'd like a little time to read this.
that's fine.
And the
When
1 foot
when do
peak.
you think you want to get started on this?
That's the good point, and I think that that's because obviously we, you know, would have, should have started yesterday,
right.
right, as
Yeah.
soon as possible. But we are getting into winter conditions, so I wouldn't advise getting in to start working on retreat of the wetland stuff until it's seasonally appropriate to seed it immediately following it. That anything that would be seeded now would lie dormant over winter and with.
So there's no need for
germinating.
us to vote on this tonight for you, is my point. You're not
No,
starting
I would,
tomorrow.
Chris, I keep, you know, obviously he's my client and I want his buy-in, but I would suspect as seasonally appropriate, it would be batten down the hatches over winter and tackle this as seasonally appropriate come late March.
Yeah.
Start on it.
Right,
Yeah, if you can get,
We'd like to move everything out of the way.
right, yeah, yeah. So why don't you, why don't we review everything that we asked for,
Yep,
submit a new plan,
okay. So,
and,
oh, go ahead, please.
and if, you know, we'll get back to you in a few days maybe with the list, after we review the plan a little more.
Okay, great, yeah, that's
know.
what I was hoping to leave
Yeah,
with
just- I wanna
is
see-
direction in terms.
Yeah.
We can increase the
Changes.
height
We're
of
gonna
trees.
do the boulders,
Yep, we'll add boulders.
we're changing number 19 for the 3 inch.
Yep,
For
3 foot
feet,
high.
excuse me.
but,
Instead of
In
1
the-
foot.
The model image as well, it shows 1 foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and,
Change the model.
yeah,
Increase the height of the trees
Yep,
from 4 to 6 to 8.
yep,
The shrubs, what do we have, 4?
go to 6.
No, I think,
I think usually we do 3 to 5,
yep.
so that's fine. Species look fine to me. And then I would like to see on the plan where the proposed snow storage is.
Yep.
And where the proposed mulch.
The mulch and the wood
storage is
chips,
gonna be.
like where you're
Have
gonna,
it
are you
right
proposing
there.
moving those towards the street area?
I believe
Is that
so,
back there?
yeah. If feasible, I think that's probably the best idea. It gives the greatest
On the other side of the
distance
fence,
between the
okay.
wetlands and,
Yeah.
right.
Currently along the street area, isn't that where your employee parking is though?
There's a fence, and then I think that's where the cars
Oh,
go.
all right, on the inside, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha,
Okay.
okay. Thank you.
So if we can get that, and then we
Okay.
can take a vote, and we know, I don't know, if you could start working on the boulders or whenever, but then come back in the spring
Yeah.
and get
And
started.
then we would probably give you a deadline.
Yeah, that sounds
You know, if you
reasonable.
start, say, April 1st, you know.
Well, you'd probably do the seed first, or would you want to wait until you got, because I know if I go and
Right.
try to buy trees,
Yeah.
I'm not going to find anything in April.
No, that's maybe one of the benefits of them being a landscape company is procurement of the native species used for the restoration.
Yeah.
So they may have a better track than we would. So yeah, no, but I do agree, ordering from nurseries in advance, oftentimes if you wait till the last minute and you try, you'll call several nurseries, they may not have the size that you want, or they'll try to give you replacement species, which may be okay, right? But some of the general notes that I put in all of my plans is that the Conservation Commission would be notified no less than like a week in advance to afford you guys opportunity to opine. Once they put in their fiber rolled sediment controls, you'd have opportunity to come out and inspect it, that you guys are welcome in the process here. But yeah, I would begin by pulling back material, getting back down in native soil and substrate. I'm not concerned about the wetland area per se. There's really deep organic soils there. Once you get into the 10-foot is once they pull that material back, ensuring that there's no less than 6 inches of clean organic screen loam as suitable growing substrate for the seeds and shrubs that we're going to put in. And then seed's probably better right out of the gates because that is the stabilization of the site, is getting root structure in there and getting uniform vegetative cover, then followed by the native seedings. And this would be concurrent with creation of the earthen berm
Okay.
and putting the boulders out there.
Okay.
So I would say depending on seasonal conditions, have it in by the end of May.
Not doable?
The hard deadline would
Okay.
be
Yep.
the end of May. Okay.
That's reasonable. Normally, that's the best season. Once you get into I don't want them in a situation they need to irrigate. So,
Yeah.
yep, March, April, May are prime restoration
Right.
season.
Because I thought for Plymouth County, the growing season, really, the latest you really should get something in is June 15th
Yep.
or so. So
Yep, yep.
that's what I'm going by
Right,
at
right.
home.
No, that's fair. And I have clients who look to plant things in the summer, and I always cost them, are you able to irrigate them? And you know, it's a dry season, peak summer months, so
Right, right.
it's good.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
So Lynn will follow up with you.
All right.
With an email in a few days with
Great.
everything we talked about tonight.
Perfect.
And,
And I'll make the plan revisions and
yeah.
get them back and
get
look to
back
get in
next
front of you
meeting
guys again.
and Vote on it.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Great. I appreciate your time.
Thank
you.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right. All right, moving on. Discussion and possible vote on dependable tree located at 837 Randall. Mr. Donald?
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
So, I'm here to, just to follow up on our site visit, I guess, back in September 10th, that I think was a good meeting, that I think resolved the issues of potential enforcement for the site. And I know there's a meeting that you had that didn't have a quorum, and we've been back and forth some correspondence since then. And I got some information a couple of weeks ago that there was still one outstanding issue that was on the table. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but I'm here to address whatever so that we can move forward.
The issue that's remaining on the table is the restoration that needed to be done where the parking lot was put in. And I refer back to the April 30th meeting where you gave your presentation and Mr. Wagner Oliveira was here as well. I had some concerns when we had the site walk out there because I wasn't comfortable with everything. And so I went back and started watching the meetings from when you first did the presentation. At that time, when Mr. Wagner came up at the 30th meeting, he said that his manager had thought he got okay to expand the parking area, but that if we weren't pleased with it, it could be put back. At that time, at that meeting, you also mentioned that 15 to 20 feet was encroached on with the length of approximately 80 feet. You had identified that there was hydric soil down by that area near the Route 139 area. And then it changed when we saw you in September, and it just wasn't ringing true for me. So I asked the commission to go back and watch the
Watch the
meeting
minutes.
and to see if you heard what I heard. And that's my issue. Mr. Wagner said he would, Mr. Oliveira said he would put the parking lot back to what it was. And that needs to be done as far as the issue of the complaint that we got out there. And that's my concern. I can't speak for the rest of the commission.
Okay. Is there anything else? I'll address it all at once.
I mean, I went back and watched the recording, and that is what was said, that there was a small area close out towards 139 that tends to puddle a little bit. Site drains very well. I think the last time you were here, I showed you official soil plans, wetland boundaries that are depicted, that are very clearly aligned with what you found in the field. So that was the only other recommendation that you would make, would be keep that puddle area where there is a lot of organic material built up, so it doesn't filter down to the material that is below it.
So the area we're talking about, we were gonna, what I had suggested was to take that area, the puddles, it's about 4 or 5 inches deep in a heavy rain, is just put an infiltration system in it that's on the property, which we can do.
And Mr. Wagner said he was going to remove all the fill that they put in for that parking area because he said he didn't need it at the April 30th meeting. So then 3 months go by and a new presentation was made in September.
Okay.
And I'm saying this whole issue for the complaint has not been resolved. I don't even want to talk about combining another project. This is my concern.
Okay, as I think we did go over since that meeting several times, there was no additional, the encroachment that was put on top of that was on top of existing gravel parking lot. And I think we've established that through the aerial photography that we showed in the history of that site. For 50 years, it's been a parking lot. Now, it had grass on it, like crabgrass and that kind of thing. Aerial photos showed that, which is typical. But that's always been a parking lot. That's always been an area of material, of vehicles stockpiled there that were not stockpiled, but parked there for the Makowitz building. You know, when they had his landscaping business, that's where workers would park. And so that, as far as that goes, this gets back to the point that was made earlier. That's been there for over 50 years. And what Mr. Wagner did was thinking he was cooperating with what you were asking for. He neatened it up by putting about 2 inches of dense grade material on there to neaten up and stabilize it, basically. But he did not encroach on anything that was not already a gravel parking lot.
But this is where my confusion comes in, because you did state that there was encroachment of 15 to 20 feet, the length of 80 feet into that area, and now I'm hearing something different.
Well, that's the point. It's encroaching. I'm using the word encroaching. He put new material onto top of that area to neaten it up, but he did not encroach anything beyond what was already there. That if you saw the ditch, it's about 7, 8 feet deep. It was built up 50 years ago. It's cut down so it'll intercept the groundwater table and drain the back part of the property.
Well, I guess, Mr. Donahoe, when I went there and I saw what was there versus what I saw the first time I was out there are two different things.
So I think we tried to clarify that with what, again, the aerial photography going before Mr. Wagner owned it shows that area cleared. There's no vegetation except for crabgrass that's on that parking lot. So it's not a vegetated wetland. There's nothing there. There's no wetland vegetation. It's zero.
I'm not even saying it's a vegetated wetland, I'm just saying it's changed from what it was, and according to what you had said at the meeting, that's what I was going by, so.
I think I'm clarifying it. I mean, there's a little nuance here, but that was always a parking lot. I think I've maintained that from the day I stepped in here. It's always been a parking lot. I know it because I was there 40 years ago, I knew that Mr. Makowitz, I worked with him.
And I've never been out to the property except for the very first time we got a complaint, and there was one dirt path in. There was no parking lot there.
Well, it
So,
was.
I mean, I guess it's my interpretation versus yours.
Well, again, that's why we try to show you the photography. The aerial photography
I
is
think I
pretty
did
good.
go to the aerial photography, and I went back and I looked at it through Mass Mapper, and I went back to 2015, 2012, and 13. I think I went back to the 1990s, but that was very hard to see. I couldn't remember. So,
But again, I asked the question, was there any trees or any kind of vegetation other than,
from what I could see, it didn't look like it does today with a parking lot with all cars parked there. Yeah, it would look like it was vegetated. However, it was vegetated with whatever was growing there, because we do know nature will bring back whatever was taken away. So there was growth in there.
again, like crabgrass and that kind of weeds, that's all
I
there
don't
was
think
there?
it was just crabgrass, but I mean,
Well, okay, I mean, we can disagree. That's all I know. We could get Mrs. McMahon in here. She can testify to that as well. She grew up there. I've asked her this several times. It's always been a parking lot. Up to that rock wall that goes down 7 feet. What we suggested we put in there, we could put in curbing to protect it better than it is now. You know, some curbing, not curbing, but some actual fencing, like guardrail fencing. That's what Mr. Wagner had said. Again, if you,
Mr. Wagner had said he would be willing to dig it out and put it back to what it was and move the parking space over to the opposite side. That's what he said at the April 30th meeting. He said he would do whatever was asked. And that's what I thought was going to be done, because I think we agreed on that.
but that was before I went out and did the wetlands evaluation. That was before we had. No, it wasn't.
No,
It was-
you had done the presentation. 'cause
No, we didn't do any of the wetlands flagging. We hadn't done any of that work. That was what came after it, to show that we weren't in any violation. At that point, you had made lots of insinuations that there were encroachment onto wetlands and all that. None of that, when we did the wetlands flagging and did the as-built drawing, there was no encroachment in any filling of any wetland at all. There was always a setback. So there's a process that went through here after I got involved. And I did tell Mr. Wagner, you know, you're giving up something that you don't have to give up, because it was always a parking lot, which is used, he was parking material there, he was using it as a parking lot.
Let me go back to that. You said that you had not come in with the wetlands delineation by the April 30th meeting?
Yeah, what was it?
Because I wrote a little transcript of that section, and you said, the last time we were here, I showed you official soil plans and wetland boundaries that are depicted, that are very, very closely aligned with what I found in the field.
Exactly, that's all in the back. That's all in the back.
I'm getting a little confused by this, because you just said that you hadn't given us the information, but in the,
No, we are giving, no, let me clarify that. We're giving you the information where we did the wetlands work in the
Yeah.
back. And we explained that all that work in the back that you had thought had been encroached, there was no encroachment. Up front here, you'll see on the plan, the wetland boundary does not exist. It goes right to that pond, and from there on, there's really just the intermittent stream. So I think I'm being clear. The plan, I'm looking right at it, the plan shows no wetland there, other than that intermittent stream. And that's it. So, you know, it shows the bituminous pavement, and I think the aerial photography we did, subsequently to that, reinforced the fact that that was always a parking lot. So there's no real there's not a misunderstanding from what I'm saying. It was always a parking lot. Mr. Wagner put some material on there when he bought the property to clear up and make that better, but he didn't encroach on any wetland. He didn't encroach on anything that was not already a parking lot.
But that little intermittent stream, there is a buffer for that as well, and yet you're telling us that there was no encroachment, but yet I'm saying there was.
Well, it gets back to the point that was made earlier. It was there for 50 years or more. There was nothing done to encroach by Mr. Wagner that wasn't already done before. Historically, that was always a parking lot. I mean, to change that would be a significant difference in what he bought and what was there before. I mean, I would know what you would want to do.
I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I can only speak for myself.
What is it we're being asked to vote on here, though? Tonight?
Well, whether we will have a restoration or not.
Didn't we discuss that we were gonna just address the complaint first and then go on from there?
There's no NOI before us, so we're not gonna discuss.
Okay, I thought that was the, okay, I thought that was the plan too.
Because what we had decided is the two will be treated separately.
That's,
So-
I hadn't heard that final decision, but we'll come in with a notice of intent for the house lot.
Yeah, so that's gonna be, the NOI was gonna be completely separate from any
Right.
potential restoration. That was the decision that was made, I don't know if the last meeting or the meeting before that, that we held.
And so to that point, the only thing that there is no other than what we're just talking about, there's really no enforcement action. There was no encroachment on any wetland boundary, whether it's a bylaw boundary or a Wetlands Protection Act boundary, there is no encroachment. Everything that was there was already there. There's more than enough buffer between the actual wetland boundary and where the encroachment had occurred. So there's actually there was no encroachment on any wetland that happened. And there's actually a buffer between everything, except one place, we went back in there's a little triangle in the back there, which again had already been there before. I think we walked back, made a point of going back there. Two different places that you thought we encroached, and we showed you how we hadn't even come close to the wetland boundary.
Well, I find it surprising that Mr. Wagner said that he did bring, and his manager did bring in additional reprocessed asphalt.
He did. No, we're not disputing
And
that.
then we were asking that it be removed, and it wasn't. And he said he would do whatever the board said. He stood right here and said his manager thought he got approval, and I said, no one on this board gave approval to have any reprocessed asphalt brought in and put on top of that parking area that you're saying was been there for 50 years. Because it didn't look like that when we first went out there, and then all of a sudden, there's a big, huge parking lot. I mean, that's the way it appeared to me.
Well, if scraping off 2 inches or 3 inches of that material will satisfy you, it's still gonna be a parking lot. Again, it was always used that way. I think it's kind of a very minor point, given the circumstances, the historical use of the property, and the nature of that intermittent stream. I mean, it flows maybe 3 months a year, 4 months a year. There's no water shed at all for that stream.
But there is a hydrological connection that goes from the wetland, and it flows through that little ditch, and it goes under Route
Right,
139
right.
over across the street. So there is a connection there, so it is,
Right, and we're not arguing that point at all.
right, so it deserves some sort of buffer as well. I mean.
But the buffer would be, the slope of that parking lot doesn't drain into that, it drains the other way. That's why we're gonna it drains away from the wetland, away from the stream. So we were gonna put that small little detention, infiltration basin, just to take whatever didn't soak into the ground normally. But most of the site drains very well. There's no puddling.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
I think right now, it's like, we're going back and forth arguing. You showed at the site walk, you had pictures, but I don't think the rest of the board has seen that. So I think that would be something, come back with a presentation and show us that that was actually
Who wasn't,
happening. I was there, Jean was there, John was there.
Okay.
Not everybody was there, and Rich isn't here right now.
well, if that's would help, I guess that would be appropriate. We'd also file a notice of intent then for the other, if you've made that determination. We'll file a notice of intent for the house lot
Okay.
and just get that moving ahead first, as well, so that can happen. Okay, so I'll come back with the aerial photography.
You had them from
Yeah, we went from when Mr.
90s,
Wagner bought it, and 2 or 3 years before that, and actually, we got, this history goes back to, my son's, the 40s, it was there. So, if that's what the board wants to do, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is everyone in agreement about that?
Yep.
Any comments, questions? Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Donahoe.
Thank you, Mr. Donahoe.
All right. Okay. All right, next up on the agenda, a discussion and possible vote on enforcement order on 155 Birch Street, 19 Charles Street. Hello.
May I use a chair?
Yes, because he has,
Yes.
you can just, yeah.
The microphone's on.
Thank you so much.
To introduce yourself and give your address.
Sure. My name is Sean Reynolds. I live at 19 Charles Street in Abington, Massachusetts. I own 155 Burt Street through an LLC, and I thank you for having me this evening. Again, my understanding is we're on a continuance for an order of, I guess, restorative action, not really sure. And so we've been in consistent contact. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we've done since we began the process here with you guys. I did include in a packet that I sent to the board some historical value, a newspaper clipping from whenever.
That's not going to be discussed here tonight.
Okay,
We're just discussing the enforcement work.
certainly,
That's it.
absolutely.
Okay.
So basically, I've owned the land for a year and a half. And when I would walk out there, and again, there's some difficulty for me to do so, I would see barrels and trash and et cetera in the wetlands that had been dumped. And so I wanted to clean that up. I wanted to get it out of there. So I bought a little tiny truck thing so I could get back there and clean it up. And when I went back there, you know, I would get pieces of steel, there are axles from cars, there are lawnmowers, all within the 100-foot buffer. And we took some photos of those, and I put some in the truck, and that was in essence where the neighbors became concerned. And I understand that concern, as anyone would. Again, I would suggest that, you know, everyone took advantage of this property for a long time and used it for dumping. In fact, there is a case in front of the court right now where a person is alleging and stating specifically that they were dumping in the area. So what we did was I got together, and again, I know the easy way out was to do an ROI and to try to put a whole plan together. Unfortunately, we have a plan that's in front of planning for, there was one plan for 6 elder, because I wanted to make it low impact. I mean, it's 3.1 acres. That one, the zoning, I guess, meeting, there was a lot of controversy, so I then entered in for 3 houses, but that still has some back lag to it. So at this particular appointment, I haven't entered an ROI because I did contact the state for low-income housing. And again, they wouldn't be built on the wetlands, but that's why I didn't go with an ROI yet, because low-income housing grants are not open until February. And I'd
Right,
be,
so we're not going to discuss that aspect.
so, but I wanted to let people know why I didn't get to an ROI, because I know that that would be something you guys desire for a full plan. So what I did submit tonight was I did hire an expert, environmental consulting, and I hope you have copies of that, because
We do.
I like what they've done here. Again, the key issue here is that what was alleged, if you want to come out and see it on a visit, was in this area, because he inspected it. I asked him to specifically make findings as to whether or not there was wetlands vegetation in the area. And in fact, he came back with a study. I asked him, I said, well, can you denote the non-wetlands material, meaning the invasive plants? And his response was to me, you don't see it on the paper here, that it would be easier to show the wetlands with putting X's on it, because the invasive vegetation has strongly taken over the area, including the maple trees, providing cover, et cetera. And so what I'm looking to do is to request that the board retract the enforcement order and look to work with me on this. Again, it would have to take periods of time, because I'd be going after grants, because I want to restore the wetlands to what it should be. And so that's my request tonight, if possible, because I'm not building on this. It's that simple. I'm restoring it to what it should be. I want the garbage out of there, and I want wetlands there. But I don't want it attacked, because right now, I know that, I don't know if both of you remember, you came out
Yes.
and you had said, why are the trees falling?
Well, I mean,
We had
Yeah.
had outrageous windstorms,
Yeah.
so there were a lot of down
But-
trees everywhere.
Right, but the secret is, let's get it back, right?
well, we won't have to get really into this. It's natural for trees to fall.
Oh, I understand, I just
A lot
want,
of times you just want to keep it that way,
yeah,
so it's actually a good thing.
I want to do what
But
the
I think-
scientists say.
Yeah,
So the enforcement order was,
The enforcement order was based on complaint. There was one complaint that there was, mowing down of wetlands was the term that was used. And then the most recent complaint, somebody was talking about clear cutting. And my we haven't gone on a site walk on your property yet. I think we should do that. The clear cutting thing, I talked to your son-in-law. He said there wasn't any. And I think the next step would just be go and see what's been done,
Yeah,
and then we can discuss.
yeah.
Do you have a bigger plan of this?
No, I apologize, the other ones had the houses and everything on it. I just wanted to show you what's delineated. Again, there's no houses.
So this is the 100-foot?
Yeah, that's what.
The little inside one.
delineated.
The blue is the wetland and the green is the buffer, is that right?
I think so. It's hard to see on there.
Yeah.
I think that's what it says, yeah.
Excuse me.
So I think part of the problem was we got a complaint about the so-called paper street, clearing trees in there.
Yeah, no, that didn't occur.
No one cut down trees on that paper street?
Not on the paper street, no.
Okay, whatever this is called right here.
Oh,
You didn't,
that's not a paper street.
okay, what is it?
That is my actual access that I have to the property.
You own that?
Yes. That's in
That's an
court.
entrance.
The neighbor has filed an adverse possession, and I'm currently arguing that,
So that's not a paper street, that's part of this property?
yes, the paper street is to the left of his home here, which is in a trust, that tiny.
This small one here?
Yep,
Okay,
that's in a trust.
Is that in the wetland buffer?
yes.
Yeah.
that
Yes.
is, Yes, okay.
That's why no clear cutting was done.
So what you cut down is on your property here?
Yes,
Okay.
but you mentioned something about court.
yes. Oh, a neighbor here, again, these neighbors don't want anything built behind their houses. And wherever the TV camera is, I understand that. Nobody wants change. I get it. But he filed adverse possession after we had zoning meetings, and he's indicating that he has 20 years' worth of use of it, et cetera, et cetera. So that's, again, going through the procedure and going to trial. That has nothing to do with conservation. It has to do with his claim that he has use of it.
Okay. So I guess our only question is the activity going on in the wetland now?
No, no,
Nothing
the
going-
only thing that I want to speak to as well, because I know that it was asked about, is I did have it staked, but I believe that state law allowed me to.
Yeah, no, I went out there, I walked the trail, and I
Yeah.
saw that they had, and I told Lynn, I thought they used hand clippers and stuff, which is fine
Yeah.
in order to get out there.
I hired
Flat.
Merrill, and
Yep. No, that was okay.
I definitely want to preserve this.
Right.
It's just in its present condition, as you can see by the report. And it's going to be expensive, I get that, but I'm going to try for grants and whatever, because
What
I
other
live right
debris,
behind it.
what other debris or like things do you have in the wetlands now that you haven't cleaned up that are still there that you need to be?
Excellent question. I don't get out there that much. But I do know there's like this oil barrel that I've complained about that's sitting here. I know this fencing, when I tried to go along my neighbor's fence, which is here, because it's just outside, so when I'm going along the neighbors on Charles Street, there's pieces of fence. My son-in-law, all right, how to put this very blunt. It's not a golf course, but yet there's lots of golf balls.
But I think.
And beer cans and,
We have to go out there.
Yeah.
yeah, please.
Yeah.
We have to.
I would love for you guys to, I just want it cleaned up. And, I want to work with you to do that. I've fought for this for a long time, for it to be the wetlands that it is. It affects my house, because I'm hoping that if we get a lot of the maples down, which are invasive, that the wetlands will come back, because as you see in one of the reports, they call it like a river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
That
so-
would be a better river than the one that comes through my house presently, because the wetlands aren't maintained. I would like that river back, because. I've
So
gone
these
from-
dotted lines going from Bob Louie's house back,
Yeah,
what does that indicate?
the dotted lines.
Like a
I'm sorry,
river.
my
The,
glasses.
the,
In the middle.
the dotted line's going
Channel.
right through the middle of the
In the middle of
blue.
the
And it
wetland.
goes under
Oh,
the,
that, probably
under
that's a
the
river,
trail,
or
and it
what the
goes
river
down
should be,
through the Patterson.
what the wetlands
So it's a
should be.
drainage.
Is it intermittent?
Perennial intermittent, because it was running when we had been out there
I mean-
before.
I have pictures of this property when it was a cornfield at the turn of the century and wasn't wetlands. But obviously, as we built up Birch Street, et cetera, it's fine, but, that's how things change. And so,
So we need to set up a site walk.
yeah, please.
Definitely.
Where would you be accessing it from? This area over
You
here
could come
on?
through 19 Charles Street, the little bump out.
Okay.
Is that the entranceway?
No.
No.
That's your property?
On Charles Street? Yep, right
So
here, 19
you don't want to
Charles
go in through Birch or anything? You want to?
Street. No, that's under protective order right now,
Okay.
as we argue the adverse. possession.
So we could go down the rail trail too,
Yeah,
yeah.
you guys own that, or rent that.
All right.
Okay. So when do we want to do this? Maybe next week?
That's fine with me, do I? I mean, I can send someone with you if that's all right.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we do 2 weeks? Because my son-in-law, who I'd like to send, is emptying the house of his uncle that passed.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No. I thank you for this opportunity, because as you can see, I genuinely want this. And also, just real quick, will these reports I passed in be available to the neighbors so they can see the wetlands condition?
This is a
according to-
public meeting.
Public hearing,
Excellent, so they can come and
It's
get it.
public records if they want.
Actually, a neighbor asked me today about it, and I said it was not a notice of intent. I
Right.
said we were just discussing the enforcement order.
If you could share with him what the scientists say, then hopefully he'll be placed at ease, because that's all I'm looking to
So
do.
that's Thanksgiving week.
Do you want to do the week after?
We have a meeting on the 26th. It'd be good to have it
Before that meeting?
done,
Let's do it before the 26th, yeah.
Okay, so,
yeah.
what times do you guys like?
We're more midday people.
Yes, just.
By 4:30, we can't do it. 4 o'clock, can't do it.
Try here.
Either that or a Saturday.
Saturdays, yeah.
Saturdays are tough for me.
I can do, or I can probably have them there you want to do it before Thanksgiving, after?
Before.
Before, because we have a
26th.
meeting on the 26th.
Our meeting is the 26th.
All right.
That way we can
so
adjust
I
it
have
for
the-
26.
I can try for November 20th, it's a duty day for me at court, but I can send my son-in-law. Let me make
20th
sure with
works for
him,
me.
and can we contact you if it's a conflict,
Contact
he's
Lynn.
not back?
Yeah.
Because he's in Illinois.
Okay.
Thank you. November 20th, 11 a.m. or 10?
Who wants to go? We can't all go.
I could go on the 20th probably. 10 a.m. would be better for me, but depends on who else is available.
I can't go at 10.
Hey, I wouldn't be able to make it this.
You can go afternoon if you want.
I can go at 10.
You can go at 10, okay?
Want to go at
Let's
10?
do it.
Okay.
Right. Alex, do you want?
Yeah, I can be there. Yeah.
All right.
Be careful of the poison ivy, please.
Oh, boy.
I
All
tried
right.
to hire goats to eat it, but I can't find them.
Okay.
Not all goats eat all that stuff.
I want them to, I hate that.
All right,
So
so
that's,
November 20th at 10 a.m.
Yes,
November 20th, 10 a.m.
and I thank the board very much.
You're welcome.
I think we're on the same page of trying
Yeah.
to preserve the wetlands, which is.
Yeah, I love it. I used to play out there as a kid. I hate reporting that now. All set?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
You guys have a great night.
You too, thank you.
Okay. All right, next up on the agenda, discussion and possible vote on enforcement order on 1212 Bedford Street, 1200 Bedford Street. Is there anyone here? Okay, so in your packet, there's an email that I received today from let me find it.
George.
The lawyer for Mr. DeAndre, he said he is still working on coordinating with the two property owners, the upcoming survey plan and wetlands delineation activities. Unfortunately, my client wishes to attend the next Conservation Commission hearing on the matter and is unavailable to attend tonight. He assured me he can make it to your next meeting. I've also instructed my client to notify Mr. McPhail of his recent request. So I have been probably every 3 to 4 days emailing him, asking for updates. He has retained Grady Consultants for the engineering portion and John Zimmerman as the wetland scientist. I impressed upon him the need to get the delineation done by November 15th, because that is our deadline for winter delineations.
So 3 days?
Yeah, 3 days. And we've already given them an extension of, 30, more than 30. No, 30. They were supposed to have it done on October 15th. And this whole process started in April. So at this point of time, the hope was they would get it done in October. We would get a peer review to go out there. It would be, we'd have something going on. We could have even had plantings going in, although spring is fine. But now it's like, I don't even know if they're gonna get this done.
It's been a marathon.
So what are our options? We can wait and see if he comes in on the 26th, right? But maybe make a plan for what happens if he doesn't show up to that meeting?
Well, that's the thing, is typically when we've had people who, they're on the border for the winter delineations, but they're making good progress.
Yep.
We would give them maybe a week depending on conditions.
Correct.
So we've had some warm days, but now we're getting back into cold
Right.
temperatures again. So,
Most of the vegetation is dying off too because of, tonight's gonna get down to the 31, so.
right. I mean, it's been up, down,
Yeah.
freeze thaw, freeze thaw.
Yep,
We're heading back down to
sure.
complete freeze. It's not
So
gonna thaw
what do we do?
until- I mean, the two things are fining. Technically, they've had 10 years of violations of the Wetlands Protection Act. And I did a because every day you have dredged, altered, or filled a wetland is a separate violation. So there's getting close to 4,000 violations of the Wetlands Protection Act at this point. It's tricky to do the fining. Alternatively, the town could take him to court
Which would take the
and then
matter out
discuss
of our
fining
hands.
with the judge, given that there's been 10 years worth.
But in that case, that's us handing this off To
Town council.
town council.
Yeah.
Well, I think they've had more than enough time. He waited and waited and waited till almost our first deadline before he hired someone. If we don't have it at our next meeting, then I think we turn it over to town council.
You got that email today at 2 o'clock?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
And then we'll get one on November 16th saying.
I was gonna say, yeah, that next, yeah.
26, yeah.
So see what they have at the next meeting, and then if not, then we just turn it over to council.
Okay. Is there anybody from the audience?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Would you like to come up, or?
Elizabeth Reed, 26 Island Road. As you know,
Reed, same.
this has been delayed forever. It's been 11 years.
Yeah.
Last June.
Yep.
And there's been some pink flagging on behind our property and the far side of our property. We don't know who did that or.
So maybe they are out there flagging
No, I
it.
contacted him and he said no.
I don't know what those pink flags are. We
Well,
noticed them last week.
It's
They're
weird.
all basically where the wetlands are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
There's obvious wetlands on our property,
it's obvious.
and the only difference with his is it's got 5 feet of fill in it
right.
that he blocked off. So something, you know, he's, I don't wanna say ignoring this board, but
No, he's ignoring the board.
He's,
Yeah, you can
Pretty
say that.
obvious.
he is, you know, and he knows that 3 days from now, technically, he's not supposed to do it anyways.
Right.
So give him more delay.
But if he doesn't come to the next meeting with any kind of information that we've asked for, then it will go to town council. And then, I guess that's further than you guys have been in 11 years. This is just unbelievable. I mean,
There was.
It was referred to
It
town
was, it
council.
was to town
It
council
was,
before,
yes.
and they didn't wanna,
It was dropped.
the town manager said, do we really wanna go down this road?
we have no choice.
There
It's
was a
been
diff-
11
it was a
years.
different-
We realize that, but it's still money. It's still the town's money.
The current town manager said that?
No,
Previous-
prior.
No.
Prior town manager.
So, my hope,
I think
Is-
you should, go ahead, I'm sorry.
my hope for this is that we get this done. We will not be able to peer review until in the spring. We get the peer review done. In the meantime, Grady Consultants and their wetland scientists come up with the plan. We'll confirm the lines and the plantings get in by the end of May, the pipes in there, and this is over with, and you never have to come here again. That is my goal.
I
So,
don't see how piping is gonna correct the problem.
and I don't know if the piping is,
That's what the engineer's gotta tell
we'll,
us.
we'll see, but regardless, if there's wetlands there, they have to be restored. There's gonna have to be trees, everything that's gonna start sucking up that water. So,
I mean, if the 5 feet of fill was removed from what it was before, the water would go where it's supposed to go on its own. That's the
Yeah.
way it was before. It's an intermittent stream
Right.
that runs along our property line,
Right.
and now it's blocked.
With his dam.
yeah,
And without, you know, pipe or no pipe, if the 5 feet of fill was removed, going back to the retention ditches, which used to be larger, I know we've already gone all over this many, many times, but there would be no need for a pipe,
There
because the
should have been
water
a
would,
plan before he did any of this.
but if there is a pipe, no matter what, and we're gonna still make them remove the dirt and fill and jersey barriers, there has to be a plan about how it's handled, who monitors it, and make sure that it stays.
That would be part of the process where we would request certain documentation, giving us the timeline as to how it's progressing. I mean, that gets put right into our orders.
So it's a 2-year process. We can make it 3, where we have a scientist who monitors it. They give us reports every spring, every fall. We could even say in the summer. It's really up to us for how many reports we request. And the whole idea is we get this established, we get it back to where nature is functioning the way it wants to, so your yard isn't a pond or pool. So that's the thing.
And you'll be able to see your well again.
Yeah.
I can see my well because it's not under 5 feet of dirt.
Well, it was underwater the last time.
Yeah, underwater, yes, I
Yeah.
can't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, but anyways, we understand you people are trying, and if they're not cooperating, then something has to be done.
Well, yeah. I don't like delay tactics,
Yep.
so.
Well, we're pretty used to it.
Well, I mean, the thing is we could always say, all right, y'all are not gonna do the delineation, then we're gonna do it ourselves and you pay for it.
Give them the bill.
Yeah.
They'll think twice about it.
I mean, that's what we would do with the peer review anyway, right?
Yep.
They're gonna pay for that as
Yep.
well. So we could just say,
So the
fine.
peer review is this board hiring another
Just so
company
we
to do
can
the same thing?
verify what they said.
Right, because when their wetland scientist goes out and flags, it seems like in every situation where we've had flagging done and we've hired a peer reviewer, there's been changes that need to increase the wetlands substantially. So we like to ensure that what's out there is actually confirmed with another outside source. So, and it benefits you, it benefits the applicant.
They work for us, the money comes from the applicant, but they work for us. And so that's typically how we do something, for something this complicated,
Right.
we would hire that. We already voted on that, so the
Yep.
lawyer is aware.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, sorry this is
Thank you.
going on, but I will contact the lawyer tomorrow to let him know what we expect.
Okay.
Okay. All right, where's my agenda? It is hiding.
I don't like it doing that.
Okay, next up on the agenda, we have SE 084-0576, notice of intent filed for proposed residential subdivision with a cul-de-sac crossing existing wetlands to create 3 lots with a single-family home on each located at 44 and 54 Linwood Street.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah.
My name is Mark Allencar with Design Consultants.
Could you stand on this side near the microphone, please?
And give your name and address.
Mark Allencar with MP Design Consultants. Firm is located 118 Turnpike Road, Suite 200, Southborough. I'm here accompanied by Carlos Pereira.
The principal for MP Design. And we have Eduardo, he's the owner of the property.
Correct. So we're before the board tonight to continue or actually open a new hearing based on the plans that we have submitted. What we have done already on the property is flagged all the trees that are required to be to be demoed and put a new tree on to be replaced. We have already done that according to the bylaws of the Conservation Commission, and we also provided schedule to that. During construction, there is an erosion control plan on sheet C101, which delineates how the temporary erosion control will be occurring while construction happens. We have temporary basins, we have temporary locations for stockpile, as well as temporary ditches to make sure that while construction stormwater runoff is being contained within those temporary basins that will be cleaned through construction. The sheet C121, it's the grading and drainage plans. which we propose to have the 3 lots. It will be a cul-de-sac. At the middle of the cul-de-sac, we'll have an infiltration basin, and we'll also have another infiltration basin towards the front of the lot. All of the impervious areas of the roads are being contained through a series of closed drainage infrastructure, so deep sump catch basins and deep sump manholes that are being discharged into the infiltration basins. Emergency spillways are within these infiltration basins that, in events of higher flood elevations, it goes into the wetland. But everything up to the 100-year storms, we're mitigating all the pre and post runoffs through our calculations and reports that were shared with the board. And then we have our landscaping plan, which really is the plan that demonstrates the trees that are being removed and the trees that are being replaced with. And we have a schedule with all the trees that are being removed and showing the trees that are being replaced with all the ratios required, all the seeding mix required for the replication. This cul-de-sac is crossing a wetland, which is about 4,000 square foot of wetland fill, but we're giving back the ratio, it's 2 to 1. We're giving back about 8,000 square foot of wetland that we're replicating. And all the replication seeding mixes are in the reports and on plans. I believe that we have done a very diligent job on placing where the houses are and also where the cul-de-sac is. We wanted to make sure that the road is actually crossing the least amount of impact on the wetland and was strategically with the grading as well. I do want to point out that this site is the lowest point in the neighborhood. Hunt's Pond is just, kind of in the west side of the project, and all the grades around our sites are higher. So all storm water and all runoff is coming towards the project, right? It's coming towards our subject parcel, and also the roadway is going on downhill. As you enter the cul-de-sac is going downhill, then you reach the wetland because it's the lowest point and it comes uphill again. So nothing from the roadway that's on the cul-de-sac that's being proposed is going towards the street. We make sure of that, and the proposed grading plan also shows some notes and some spot elevations to ensure that nothing of that will happen. I think that's all I have. I don't know if Carlos has anything else to further.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Carlos Ferreira from.
Get to the mic, sorry. Thank you.
Carlos Ferreira from MP Design. I also wanted to point out that the crossing that we're doing on the wetland is right, the city has an easement, a sewer easement, there's a cross-country like sewer line that, literally crosses the whole wetland in here, and the town has an easement for maintenance on that. So eventually, when the installation of that was done, it was all excavated into what was then like a wetland.
It's very
basically
close.
doing the crossing on that area on it, and I think like where we proposing to have all the replication.
It's all of the replication is right. Replication area is right in this area here, and right on some area right here. We color coded according to how the Conservation Commission requires on the yellow and oranges and all of that. I know that the plans have a lot of points. It's because those are the existing trees that are required to be shown. There is a plan that doesn't have all of the trees, which is, I have it in here, which is a site layout plan. It can give you a better overview of the layout of the site without all the trees on there. This thing just kind of shows where the trees are being removed and where the snow, you know, you can see some of the snow storage areas that we have. We also highlighted the snow storage area landscaping plan. But this is just a cleaner version, right, without the proposed landscaping plan. Just to give you all a better sense of what's happening with the layout of the site. I think we also have all the details. The commission has that. And I think at this point, we'd like to see if the commission has any questions, comments.
So, we've got 3 houses here,
Yes.
and 1.5 of them are within the 100-foot buffer.
Within a what? I'm sorry?
They're built within the 100-foot buffer.
That's correct. One of them are.
Well, one of them is entirely, the other one's about half of it, right?
Yes, correct.
And technically, there's a 200-foot buffer.
Okay.
So Abington bylaw has a 200-foot buffer for ponds and lakes and rivers.
And that 200-foot buffer is.
Pretty much your
Yeah.
entire
The
property,
whole thing.
Yeah, will be,
or at least
and that 200-foot buffer states,
maybe not half, but quite a bit.
yeah, would be all this area here.
Yeah, and you know, you've got one of the houses, the one that's all the way in the buffer zone, is also right up against the 50-foot no-build zone, which would kind of mean you might have to put a plaque on the side of the house that says, don't build any further back than this. I mean, to me, it just seems like we're trying to cram as much housing as we can onto this property and disregarding the point of the buffer zone. But I don't know, maybe I'm misinterpreting it. I don't know if you guys see it that
No,
way.
that's actually one of the points that I brought up when I looked at the plan. I mean, I had circled my plan saying that the house that's in the 100-foot buffer, the back corner of it touches the 50-foot no build. So, and then you go into the 35 no disturb. Obviously, the land has some contouring. I'm trying to read the elevation lines, but you would have to most likely bring in a lot of fill, which is a problem for me, because of where it's located inside a buffer zone. The replication areas that you're proposing for the disturbance to the wetland, I don't see the new buffer for the replication of the wetlands. The sewer easement isn't directly in the wetland, if I'm looking at it correctly.
It's right next to it.
Yeah, it is beside it, but the BBW is there. And the sewer easement has pretty much been done for a while. But aside from getting back to the house that's completely in the 100-foot buffer, as you disturb that buffer zone, a buffer zone is there to slow down stormwater, prevent debris from washing downhill, and the people below this property, like Richard and Judith Hannah and Elizabeth George, I'm kind of concerned of the impact of this water all of a sudden not having a buffer to slow it down, and
Yeah.
it's just going to go running in there.
No, that's shown in our stormwater report. We have calculations that explains how all the stormwater is being
But the house is
calculated.
completely in the 100-foot buffer. So in other words, there's going to be no buffer left once that house is built.
No, once the structure is going to be there within a 100-foot buffer zone, and there's no bylaw that prevents us from doing something within a 100-foot buffer zone. You have the 50-foot no-build zone, which we are respecting that, and we are putting all the runoff from the roof. It's being captured into Coltech
Can I
chambers.
ask you, have you been to planning board yet?
We have, yes, and we have addressed many of their peer review comments. Unfortunately, the next hearing, we had to be extended, and they wanted us to basically be here, Conservation Commission, to get the meeting, going again. and they denied us to make sure that we come back into Conservation Commission and get all your inputs to then come back to them again. We have addressed most of their peer review comments from Norwood Engineering. We have provided that as a letter as well on the attachment of the NOI report. We have addressed most of their concerns. I spoke to, I believe his name was Davidson, if I forgot, from Norwood. But they have done a peer review, a thorough peer review, and nothing has changed from that point to where we stand now.
So, getting back to that house, one of the things that I had asked for was topography. And I noticed that there's a fairly steep slope going from where that house is down into the pond. So it's about 20%. What MACC, the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions, suggests or strongly recommends is that when you have a slope between 15 to 40%, you take your buffer and you times that value by 1.4. So in this particular case, if we times 35 by 1.4, the 35 no disturb now becomes a 50-foot no disturb. And the 50-foot no disturb has to also get pushed back, I think, 20.
So this has gone also to Mass DEP for their review, right? We have the NOI application number, and they've had no technical comments.
They just,
Right.
technical comments,
Yeah.
but they don't make the judgment call.
Uh-huh. No, I understand that, yes.
And even
Yes.
if we didn't have a no build, that we still could say, we want you to extend.
No, we can certainly
Stop.
evaluate this house location and some of the footprint as well. We also have the offsets, of course, of the building, right, from the property line. And we have done many evaluations on how to properly, distribute the lot size. We're working with Carl Garvey on, I think many of you have known him. We have also had a configuration before where we could actually go into some sort of cluster development that we could have 4 or 5 lots. And we understand that this is a sensitive area under the planning board, and we understand that this is a sensitive area for Conservation Commission, so that's why we did not want to proceed it that way. And we wanted to strategically place the lots at the upper portion of, the homes at the upper portion, away as much as possible from all the buffer zones and all the wetlands that it's currently within, the footprint of the subject parcel.
One thing I don't like, besides that house, is the crossing.
Okay?
To me, when I'm, getting my ruler out and everything, it looks to me like you have the opportunity to move that up and around. You may not be able, yeah. So, instead of cutting it in half, going up and around it, you still might have an impact, but it would be much less than if you're just going right through.
So you were thinking of coming this way.
Yeah.
The issue with going this way is that, one, we're going to have to reconfigure this entire thing. The grading won't work with retaining walls, and we might end up impacting more of the wetland area than crossing through here, because this is the nearest point the wetland is, I think you can all see on the blue.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, the wetland is at the shortest distance right in near this spot. And if we put the road over here, we're talking about grading and much more impacts to the topography and retaining walls and things of that nature that could impact further this wetland, and also how we lay out the site with all utilities and everything. I think there's a bigger potential for more impact.
But that's something you have to show.
Sure, an alternative analysis.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah. Because I think there might be a way to avoid as much impact. That's the route that I would want, that's the route the EP would want to see. We have to keep in mind that this site is not just, oh, there's a buffer, you know, for wetland, it's also a pond.
Right.
The town has designated ponds to be especially important. So I'd like to see this to be, I'd like to see an alternative to this.
I feel like if we study also the history of like the pond that you're talking about, it's more like a drainage control.
Nope, it's gonna be a pond, we call it a pond,
But
it doesn't
definitely
matter.
Drainage control, there's a dam in here, which is like, we actually had a chance to talk to one of the neighbors that knows like about the history more than that, and it's on the verge of failing, and I think like it's a mix of like Abington and Brockton, it's not being taken care of it, and if that fails, actually that whole pond's gonna go away, and there's a lot more flooding that happens downstream, but it is a drainage control, probably like 100 years old, and like the reason that we have like most of that wetland that actually incur into the property is because when that floods, you know, invades the property here, it forms like this arm of like a water on. I mean, I'm not saying that there's no, you know,
Pond.
environmental sensitivity of it, but the purpose of this, back when they created the dam, it was for drainage control.
Right, but anything that is stormwater, drainage, anything that's done before November of 1996 that can be considered to be a wetland or waterway is one. And when we opened the hearing, we had an abutter who said there are beavers there now. So it is certainly acting as a waterway and wetland. And I understand that that dam is crumbling, probably due to lack of maintenance. It doesn't mean that it's crumbling and therefore it's not like a real thing. It's
If I'm
acting
not
as a pond.
mistaken, I don't mean to interrupt you,
Go ahead.
but I am gonna say, I don't think it's just there for drainage, because Beaver Brook, which runs from Ames Knoll, which comes from the wetland from Holbrook, all travels down and goes across 123 into the meadow that goes down beyond Whitman, so there's a hydrological connection from
Right,
Holbrook all the way
right.
down.
I think
So
what
it's-
Carlos wanted to explain was that the dam was installed to prevent further
I think
erosion
it was to-
on the downstream end.
This is,
That's-
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It wasn't just.
But I don't disagree that there is a hydrologic
I mean,
connection.
you can see,
Yeah,
go to the
yeah.
history of Island Grove.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right? That wasn't what it was 100 years ago.
yes.
They actually have a great walking tour. You can go on Oktoberfest and they tell you all of what it was like, but that is considered to be a pond. So we're not going to argue about drainage and what.
Oh, no, yeah.
It's functionally characterized as a pond, and therefore it has a 200-foot buffer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this third house that's touching the 50-foot line, what is the setback required from the cul-de-sac?
Setback.
Yeah, let me see on the,
The setback required for front yard is 35 feet. Side yard is 30.
And how far is the setback? There's so many numbers on this that it's kind of difficult to see if it's even on here, the setback.
Yeah, the setback on lot 2 is the most stringent one, which is the one that we are on.
Maybe.
Just give me a so people.
yeah, we, I can scale it off.
There is opportunity to reset the houses to bring you have to slide this closer to the house.
One person at a time, please. Thank you.
It's about 45 feet.
So you can move another 10
Yeah,
feet forward.
we could move forward, yes.
I'd like to see the questions and answers to the plan.
I'd like to see an alternate plan too.
And also, and,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'd like to well through the site.
Yeah. It's
So-
very steep on this side
Yeah.
over here. Very steep.
So before we make the motion, I think we should open it up to the.
Say for the abutters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly.
Anybody from the audience have any comments, please?
You have to come up to the microphone,
Yep.
please.
I want to thank you for being so attentive to wetlands. I'm
Really?
impressed.
Thank you.
Really, really. It's just really, yes, of course, sorry. I live at 175 Mill Street. My name is Andrea Moyna, and it's literally right across. I would be able to see these buildings. There are, I don't know, dozens and dozens of beavers that live there. And it is a very, very steep incline there. I'm wondering how you could build this, and you think that it's just a drainage pit or something. It's a vibrant pond. There are heron, there are all sorts of fish, and there are beavers. I mean, it's alive and well. It's not dying at all. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what sort of power a citizen has, but aren't there other places more appropriate that you could build your buildings? I mean, I know that the scenery is lovely, but our house is set back and it's flat. You know, it's flat. It juts out onto the pond, but it's safely built and it doesn't interfere with anything. If anything, the beavers interfere with us. They chew on the trees and they destroy some of them, but nonetheless, it's worth it. Yeah. I'm not a scientist, but I am a citizen of Abington, which I love, and I would really appreciate if you could, and the Talbots couldn't make it here.
How long have you been in this property?
I've been here about 8 years.
Okay, so you're familiar with what happens when there's rainstorms and
Oh,
everything
yes.
else?
Oh, yes,
So
yes.
the impact of the water levels.
Yes, well, we have a spillway on the land.
Right.
Yeah.
I've seen the spillway.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uncle Joe put that in. But we have a spillway there, and there are times when it's splashing over the sides.
Yeah.
It has not overflowed, but more water would be frightening. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
No, sorry. Anyone else from the audience? Please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is George Mentis. I live at 149 Mill Street. He says that I'm basically the lowest point where my lake is. It is a thriving lake. There's beavers, there's geese, there's all kinds. I think if he builds what he's gonna build, that he says, I think it's gonna disturb my property because there's gonna be no place for the water to go. I don't care how much ductwork he builds or anything like that. I know that if you build tar, you drive roads, the water's gonna follow it. It's gonna go to the lowest point. I'm the lowest point. I don't need water in my yard. I don't need water in my cellar. I don't want it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
Good evening, I'm Richard Hanna from 143 Mill Street. I've been there 50 years. The back of that property gets pretty wet. I've got some pictures from March. This past year was a wet year, and it was pretty well flooded back there. I guess my first question is, has that property been delineated, or whatever the word is, with a professional besides Carl Garvey? So it's been done lately?
It was delineated in 2022,
Yeah,
but
3
I
or 4 years ago.
believe
2021.
2021, no, an ANRAD was filed, wasn't it?
Yes.
2022, and I think Brooke Monroe was the wetland
Right.
scientist who did the delineation.
So I don't know, as well as you know, wetlands change. In case you don't remember me, I'm the guy from Griffin's.
Yeah, I know.
So I get
How
involved
could
with
we
that with
forget
you
you?
guys all the time, which is fine. But we all know the wetlands change,
This is
Should
true.
that be done again, just to verify? Especially, I'll tell you, the amount of water that we had this past, again, it was late spring,
Right.
was just incredible. What bothers me is they want to put 4,000 square feet of fill in there, and it's like, they can make all the retention bases they want.
Right.
But as well as you know, when you
Downhill.
respond or regulate it back to a human being to keep that clean,
Yeah.
instead of Mother Nature back there, this is wrong. And plus, whoever moves up there, who's gonna be responsible? Are we gonna send John Stone up there?
No.
I mean, John's got enough on his plate without cleaning this stuff out.
Mr. Hanner, I was out there when, with Carl Garvey, when the ANRAD was filed.
Right.
One of my observations where that third house is that land just dropped.
Right down to me.
Yeah, I
And to
know.
him.
And I think I mentioned earlier, my concerns with that house, that third house being in that 100-foot buffer, does affect and will affect you, Elizabeth, George, and I don't know who else, I'm sorry, by the spillway.
Right,
Water is going to go to the lowest point.
that's right. That's right. In 50 years, I've never had water in my cellar.
When you take away a buffer zone, which slows stormwater runoff, it also prevents erosion. All the trees that are sucking up whatever water is there that will now be gone because a house is there in the buffer is a concern.
I mean, I don't have to remind you, this is the fourth person that owns that land that wants to build, and nobody got through there. I mean, the original people, Ryerson's, they tried to build up there in 2008, 9, and the amount of work they had to do from the planning board, they had to put fire hydrants in. Back in 89, I'm sorry, was 2009, I think it was. So it was like 15 years ago. They were gonna have to put almost $500,000 in to build that road in there. And that's why they backed up for one house. We would have been better off with that one house up there. But, hey, what are you gonna do? But I just ask for you to, if he does get this, that we make sure, there's no guarantees in life. I mean, tomorrow morning, we may not wake up. And I hope everybody does, don't get me wrong, but we don't know what life is gonna be, but I've gotta have some sort of, I know they're not solid guarantees that that water is not gonna come down, like you said, down that hill. And I'm afraid once they start clearing it out, you're gonna, with all the retention basins or not, water's gonna come down that way, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Elizabeth George, the Elizabeth George. At 175 Mill Street. My name's been mentioned twice because of, as I understand it, an inadequate buffer zone. It's they're trying to get too much, as I understand it. But I really would like to thank each of you for just taking such good care of the wetlands, however they show up. I really have a good feeling that that is your mission and you are accomplishing it. So thank you very much for your hard work.
Thank you.
It's very kind. Is there anybody else? No? Okay. All right, bringing it to the board.
Well, like I said, I want to go out to the site, I want to see what planning board said, I want the engineer's answers, and I would make a motion to continue this.
And an alternate plan.
And an alternate plan.
Okay.
I'd love to have you for lunch. Let me know when you come.
So, do we want to continue it for a month or to the next meeting? I
Do we
think
know when the planning board next meeting is, or?
the next meeting would be the first Monday, and when are you scheduled to go back to planning?
They withdraw like our application because they don't know what, and then
So you have to refile with planning?
Yes, there's a time limit to perform, so
I say we continue it for a month,
December 8th.
December 8th.
That's the date. Is it the 8th? I don't remember.
My motion is to continue this to December 10th to give us time to do a site walk, review planning board, and for you to do an alternate plan.
Any second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous, okay.
Thank
So we
you.
will set up a site walk with you. You already signed the site authorization form,
Yes.
so we want to set it up now, or do we want to just do this?
I'd like to get planning board info before we do this.
Anything, but the planning board comments, they were part of the NOI submission, the latest comments, and how we reply to them as well.
Oh, okay, so we do have it, okay, all right, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right,
And do we have a
let's set
good contact for them? Didn't we have a few issues trying to get in touch with people from
Yeah,
their
we
office?
have Issues, so I
Yeah.
mean, we had several people who, there was Zoe Chang.
Yes.
So are you going to be the point
Yeah,
person
I
from
can
here
do
on
it in
out?
person, yes.
Okay,
So he can provide you with the information and all, everything will channel through you and.
yeah.
Yeah. And if anything, this is always a good address. This goes to everyone in the firm. This contact, the
Okay.
PD consultants.
Gotcha.
This goes to all the employees. So
Okay.
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 So just an FYI, but I can write down my email.
Oh, I don't know now. Do we want to do a site walk this month? Or do we
I
want to
think we're
wait?
kind of busy this month, aren't we?
Yeah,
And we've got
Yeah.
the holiday coming up. So how about right after Thanksgiving?
Yeah, the week after
Okay.
Thanksgiving.
all right.
How does that sound to everybody else? Because I know everybody probably have plans and preparations and everything else. John,
That works for me, yeah.
Justin?
And we can do two separate site walk visits.
So everybody gets eyes on
Yeah,
it.
I want everybody, I always want two people on the site walk together.
Yep,
And I'd like everybody to see the site,
yeah, I have seen it, so,
but we can't have more than four,
right.
Can we go,
no, more than three, sorry.
besides that site, can we also possibly from Mill Street and go from that way from the pond and see maybe the effects that way?
We actually, that's gonna be kind of hard because that's right through the FEMA's flood zone area and everything, so I think it would be kind of, I mean, though we've not had any rain.
Right, it might be dry, it might be, that's the thing,
Yeah,
it
I
might be
think
dry
the
out
best
now.
way was through Linwood Street because there's actually a path and you also have the sewer easement line to easily fall up and go to the top of
Okay.
the property.
Okay,
And then when you're at the top of the hill and you step around and you see down, it's,
Okay, so Linwood Street is the best
Outside.
way. Jean?
what,
Linwood Street is the best way then.
Linwood Street would be the easier access because I think that's the way to get in, correct? From Linwood Street?
yes,
Yeah.
That's correct, yes.
just wanted to mention that all the trash.
If you're gonna, how about you?
I've seen the trash for the house next door and I know that's not yours. I know. I know all about that.
There's a driveway,
Yep.
all the trash there belongs to our neighbor.
Yeah, I know. Carl Garvey explained that when I first went out there. Yeah, it was pretty horrific.
There's cars, refrigerators.
Yep. air conditioners, I saw it. I know.
I would love to go on one of these site visits. Does that happen?
Not really. It's,
Well, there's exceptions to every rule.
I don't see a problem.
okay, well,
Consider it, okay?
yeah,
I'll
oh,
look to
absolutely.
see if that's a possibility, although it'd have to be up to the property owner in the end to make the final decision.
Yeah, and they wouldn't mind because,
The only issue that we would like to, like, if people wanted to walk, like, sign a liability, because it's rough land.
It is
If
rough.
somebody gets hurt over there, they own their
Yeah.
own. We
I
don't-
believe there was a stone wall I had to climb over as well, so yeah. It's,
And the other thing is,
There's
there's
dead
no,
trees and
there's no
bushes.
discussing it
yeah.
on the site, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
We did have that happen once on that other property that we went to. Remember some of the
On
residents had,
Linwood Street,
yeah, it walked out.
they walked for a while.
And then they turned around and went back, because it gets pretty
It was pretty
sketchy.
challenging.
Yeah. But sign a liability waiver, I guess.
Sounds good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we will be in contact with you regarding site walk.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
It was nice to meet you.
Yes.
I love meeting you. Where do I give you my phone number?
I think once you write it down, right there. Or actually, my book.
What's your name?
Yeah, your questions were exactly the things I first saw when I looked at that. I went,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okey dokey. All right.
Hi, Mr. George.
All right, this is the old agenda. Where is the current one? All right, guys. Discussion and possible vote on enforcement order on 267 North Quincy Street.
So, like I said at the last meeting, he was supposed to send me an email explaining why he couldn't get the borings done now. His engineer couldn't do it by November 15th, and I have yet to receive an email from him. I texted him the other day and asked him, and I didn't hear back. So, he has it scheduled, according to a phone conversation I had, for first thing in the spring. So, I just don't have that in writing.
I think we should start getting everything in writing.
I've asked.
Yeah.
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 So I'll call him again tomorrow. I had texted him the other day.
Okay.
I'll call him tomorrow and tell him I need that in writing and who's gonna do it and all the details.
Yeah, but CC me on that,
Yep.
please. Thank you for being the point person.
All right.
Appreciate it. Okay, so there is some movement. Right. All right, so discussion and possible vote on enforcement order 261 Walnut Street.
what is
So-
going on with that? This is crazy. This is
Last time there was like a guy from,
August we were out.
yeah, I think the last time we had a meeting, there was a guy from a solar power camp.
Solar company.
Yeah, he came in.
We told them withdraw. They're confused about that. The solar person came and contacted Nancy and asked what they should be doing. I had sent out a revised enforcement order with the deadline for a delineation, which they, supposed to be November 1st, and it's come and gone. They don't understand what they need to do. So I wrote up this is what has to happen, do this, then this, then this. And then, after all this has taken place, then you guys can file an RDA But we have to go through the restoration process, we have to do delineation, restoration, et cetera. Unfortunately, so I think Alex, I CC'd you on that email, and I think I CC'd, and it bounced back. So I'm gonna call her.
What?
Haven't had a chance to go and call her, but yeah. I don't know what's going on.
I mean, I thought it was very clear when we
I
were
thought
out
they
there
knew
in
that they had a
August.
hire wetland scientist.
I think they were told, I mean, at the time we discussed, because his daughter was there and spoke perfect English. And I think, John, you were speaking to the homeowner himself.
Yes.
Which you could understand.
He was, yeah, he was not totally discoherent on it. He understood that he needed to, we needed a wetland scientist, he needed to hire one.
Right.
And he understood that perfectly fine. He may not have known the laws per se.
Yeah.
What he possibly did, but I know he knew what we expected of him.
Okay.
And his daughter did as well.
All right, so now we're gonna hold off until spring?
Yes.
And I have to.
So, yeah, there's not gonna be able to get a wetland
No.
scientist
Nope.
by,
Yep. Okay.
what day is that, Friday? Thursday? So, yeah, I will reach out to her this time, hopefully with a good email address, and then we will go from
Well, that's awful. I'm sorry that happened.
And I would monitor it over, at least drive by over the winter to make sure there's no activity going on.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they're doing some seeding on the side of the house, like with lawn, there's like a bucket, they're putting new seeding, not right where the wetlands is, but on the side of the
Well,
house.
we'll be able to tell if anything happens, because, I mean, I think the pictures I took and sent in to Tony clearly showed how much had been done out there, so anyway. Moving on.
Okay, great. Certificate of compliance policy. So you guys might remember, we talked about a certificate of compliance policy. I had it sent over to town council. She got back to me, and just made some edits. Like, if you look at the town of Uxbridge's certificate of compliance policy, where they talk about no partials, it's very long, like, we're not gonna do this, and she basically cut a lot of it out to just keep, basically, as a matter of good business practice, you shouldn't offer something for sale unless you have a certificate, and we're only gonna give a partial in rare and extenuating situations only.
Okay.
The rest of this is really, as you can see today, we had, one of them, certificate of compliance requests did not indicate things like what they changed. They didn't change. They're supposed to, in generally, say something like it's been substantially in compliance with the approved plans. What we've seen in the past is a completely different result from a plan that we had approved. So a lot of what this is just laying things out very specifically.
So this is the edited one.
That's the edited one, yeah. So she didn't really touch anything except, she had some comments about the fact that we will need to have a hearing, for example, which I already knew. She had cut out some of the language scolding people, I guess, for wanting partials and, hey, we're not gonna do this anymore because you're not doing things right. But, one of the things I think I've mentioned is if you look at different towns that have done that, they just have one sentence that just says, we don't give them out.
Right.
Everything else, though, is just talking about the certificate of compliance policy. So I kind of stole language from other people that was a lot more specific, such as you can't just say this is in substantial compliance. It needs to show, like, these were the changes that we made that
Right.
were very, very specific. Like, they did that for 714.
Yep.
Bedford Street, for example. They said, this is what was done, this was not done, this is what was not done. The other thing that we had a discussion, Alex and I and Scott, about deadlines, which I'll talk about in a couple of minutes. But we want to what we want to do is say, here's everything you need before you get to this point, and you have to wait 21 business days before this will be considered. The other thing is a site walk has to be done before, it seems like in the past couple of months, we've had people who've been, they show up, I didn't know they were on the agenda until that day, and we haven't had a site walk. So we want to extend that process and then give people enough time to go out there and see it, because we have had many cases where what they did was not what they were supposed to do. And there was, I'm not going to say the address, but one that was incredibly egregious. So we definitely want to do the sidewalk check. But yeah, if you guys want to take a look through it,
So do we want to schedule this hearing for our next meeting, advertise it?
I think it has to be, I would do it on the 8th, the 10th,
Okay, all right.
to give it more time, because I don't know if you need 21 days.
Yeah, so we should have a notice done tomorrow by Tony, with Scott's approval, and then have it posted with the clerk that on December 10th, I think the date.
Yep.
We will be holding a hearing
Hearing.
on this policy.
Yep.
Right.
And we could schedule the hearing for 6:30 and then have our agenda after that.
Perfect.
Because I think we have to do a specific time
Yeah.
for this.
Okay.
I remember when we did it in the past, we had the separate notices.
Yeah.
And we just had copies available at the front, so
Right.
people could
Yep.
take them.
And we'll need copies available now,
Right.
if anyone sees it and wants a copy, so. Somehow in the notice, we should put in there that copies of the proposed policy will be available in the selectman's office. So,
Okay.
yeah. But Scott will fine tune that.
Okay.
All right.
So if you guys have any, go through this, if you have time or want to, let me know if there's any language that you think should be added, changed, because right now it's just kind of me stealing things from other people, and there might be, and me tweaking some stuff that I thought made more sense. But if you
Well, I
say-
think if this is what town council sent back, then,
Yeah.
and I believe she's on a conservation commission?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Duxbury, is it? I believe she is.
yeah, so, well, let's review it and then,
The as-built. We always seem to look for as-bills.
That was another thing, like, so you know how
That's
normally
built-
with our notices of intent, we're
Yep.
given, everyone gets a copy of this, here's a
Right.
copy, People have been giving us just one copy.
Yep.
And that has happened many, many times.
Right.
And it's not really fair.
To all of us.
it's not in our bylaws that 10 copies? It always was.
It
No,
should.
because I think we've
We've
had
never
that.
had anybody give 10 copies.
No.
Well, I think that should be in there because every one of us should get a hard copy.
Absolutely, I agree
Unless
with
they're
you.
gonna file everything online, like we talked about also.
Right, electronically even, yeah, but, I think only one applicant did give us each copy, and that was just on one. And that's the one where we found all the
Well, I
differences.
think, well, why don't we jump ahead a
Yeah,
little bit?
yep.
If we can.
But yeah, let's,
Yeah. Bring back our, okay.
I think what I need to do though is add the number of copies
Yeah,
into this
Yep,
and sizes, because I know what happens, what I've complained about is that you have a plan this big, right?
like we
look
did
at,
tonight, it's just on
And then
a-
you get it and it's this big.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, what did you do? So
Right.
that's something else I think could potentially be added.
Yep,
well, I know building departments require plans a certain size.
Yep.
And we could do that too.
yep.
Okay.
All right, so before we go on to the others, why don't we go to the deadlines and stuff?
Okay.
Kind of talking about.
Sure. Yeah, so one of the things it's been kind of challenging to get documentation to everybody, in a certain time. So we've talked about extending deadlines. So right now, if an applicant has an NOI or ANRAD, they have to turn it in 2 weeks before the next meeting. So Tuesday at noon is when it's due. They are supposed to, if we have supplemental information that we request, they have a week. And what we've seen is that's just not enough time.
Okay.
We have had cases where people have come to the meeting and just started handing things out to us. And it's like, haven't even had a time to look at it.
Right.
So my thought is that we extend it, since we're gonna do a 21-day deadline for the COC, that we do the same thing for NOIs, RDAs, and.
It's consistent. Yep.
That means that we have to update the.
Regulation.
Not the regulation.
Oh, the NOI.
The NOI, the checklists.
Yep, yep.
Because right now the checklists say
Yep.
2 weeks. 21 days seems to be calendar days, I think is good, because that's what DEP is using as calendar days. We talked to Tony and she feels like the load will be lifted off her shoulders.
So, if any of you are familiar with planning board, they put out the first of the year. The hearing is this night, all filings have to be in by this date. And so we asked Tony to do the same thing going forward. So if our hearing is January 10th, we need everything, 21 days prior. And if we don't have it, the hearing doesn't happen.
Good.
We have to be consistent, and I think we have to advertise just like planning does. So there's no question. This is the date of the meeting. If you want to be on this meeting, we need everything by this date.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing too is, we've had a lot of cases where we get the NOI checklist, it's not filled out completely, like the applicant hasn't signed anything. They haven't signed a form saying, yes, I read the checklist, I agree to let you on the site, or, hey, you're missing an entire thing.
Then it's rejected.
Right.
Yeah.
So the idea would be, because DEP has a 21-day deadline, right? You submit it, you got 21 days, calendar days. Or it goes straight up to them. And they bypass us completely, and therefore our bylaws, regulations just won't apply. So in this particular situation, it will only be considered to be here if it's complete. The 21 days would not start ticking, the clock would not start
Totally
ticking.
complete.
Until we've gone through it and said, it is now complete, and now we're gonna schedule. If somebody comes in and it's incomplete, they have to wait until the following hearing. So if they put it in 2 weeks ahead of time, and we're like, nope, you need X, Y, and Z, they don't get to show up at that hearing. They have to wait till the week before. So it's not until it's complete and has to be 21 days.
It'll save them time and it'll save us time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not looking at something at the last minute.
Right.
We can have, prepare for it.
I would also like to propose that, right now, because we just kind of get this checklist started last year.
2023?
2023, yeah.
Yeah.
And so far, what's happened is I've been the one looking at it. I'd like to have another pair of eyes.
Sure.
So it doesn't have to just be like Jean's gonna do it. If somebody else wants to, pick it up occasionally and try it themselves.
Yeah, I don't think it would be bad if we all kind of had a look at it.
Well, it would be nice.
Yeah, if everybody had a question, we could get
Yeah.
everything
I
settled
mean,
before we
that
start.
way, if one of us isn't available, Tony has a question or somebody has a question, they can reach out to any of us.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah. So that's gonna require a change in the checklist that we have. I don't know if we wanna vote, I think we should vote on an application deadline tonight. Tony is itching to put that on the website. And it would be nice to get that up there.
Sure.
And to also make the changes to the checklists for the deadlines. So
So you need a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll make the motion to update the checklist and, what else we do?
21 day
And,
deadline.
make the deadline 21 days prior to
Meeting.
meetings. And for Tony to do a list 1 year in advance of the meeting dates and the filing dates.
Okay. All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? No. Unanimous, great. Okay, now the fun stuff. The brochure,
Very
Oh,
good.
very pretty.
yes.
I like it.
I'm not sure why the yellow is all in the background. It was white, but
Well,
they printed
because,
yellow.
when, when I printed it out at home, I printed it on yellow paper.
Oh,
And then I
oh, you
keep wearing my
photocopied it?
photocopies, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's darker.
That's all.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be white. That's okay though.
Yeah.
I think it
So it's-
still gets the point
I
across.
kind of like the yellow, but as it was coming out, I was like, oh, it's not so bad.
My concern was a little bit about like the images and stuff, and I keep forgetting the name of the person who was here from the town. She was interested in
Sam.
brochures. Sam?
Yeah.
She mentioned that like images could make it more expensive to print, and so that's something we.
Well, I think we were gonna look into, Plymouth House of Correction.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Social
See if
work,
they
that
can,
kind of-
we
that,
can,
yeah.
yep.
It still costs some money, but it's gonna be a lot cheaper.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, the idea with this was just kind of, first off, it's a tri-fold brochure, so I kind of stuck mine together,
Yeah.
but, you open it up and it just gives you the basics, like, well, first off, what is Abington Conservation Commission? What's the Wetland Protection Act? What's protected? As a homeowner, what am I responsible for? How do I know that I'm responsible for these things? Like, where can I find this information? So I talk about Mass Mapper. And then on the backside in orange is the kind of warning, like, hey, don't do any of this stuff.
Right.
If you feel like if you got wetlands on your property, and then contact information so they can reach out before doing any work. And I just had this blank panel, which I wasn't sure what to do with. So that's where the images for Island Grove, Ames Knoll, and Thompson Pond came up, just to kind of fill the space and maybe remind people who live near those places, like, oh, okay, they're talking about me. So that's the idea. I think one of the things I noticed when I went back through it was there's some language in here on the responsibilities that's more generic in nature and not specific to Abington. I can't remember exactly. Oh, yeah. Enforced by your municipality, for example. Like, we can change that wording to say by Abington or, the town of Abington or whatever. But anyways, that's the idea. And then, we just have to figure out how we want to distribute something like that. Like, what venues make sense to share it.
Well, I'd like to see a little brochure holder out in front of the building department, so every
Oh,
time
yeah,
somebody
that's a good
comes
idea.
in, I mean,
Building department, town
Library.
clerk.
Yeah.
We could do it down at the tax department, the
Yeah.
assessors, I mean, all of them.
Yeah.
Maybe the police station,
yeah,
Okay.
library. Spread them all around town.
right. But mostly the building department,
Yeah.
because most people come in and say, I want to do this, or do I need to do this or
Yeah.
this? And they're like, oh, here you go, you might
Yeah,
want to.
yeah.
When I was at Oktoberfest, Open Space had a table.
Very nice.
Nicole was there and she was handing out for their meeting.
Okay.
Right.
So that could be something. We can
And
even
with that
share a
Tree
table.
City USA program and handing out little trees, we can send them home with kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
had a little tent or next, stuff like that. We could always
Yeah.
pass them out.
Yep.
So I think so things like that. But yeah, I think this is great, Justin. I love pictures. I
Okay.
love seeing things with pictures.
Hey, how do we, yeah.
The only critique I would have is that, and this is really hard to do, and I don't know how, like, I was playing around with it, and I can't figure out how to do it myself so it sounds good, is that we have the 200-foot for rivers, ponds, and lakes.
Oh, 100-foot buffer and 200 for rivers,
Yeah.
lakes, and
It's kind of
streams.
tricky
Yeah.
to fit
Like
it
that
in
bold,
somewhere.
I don't know.
You're talking about where it says what areas are protected?
If you want to work in a resource area or within 100 feet of a buffer zone or 200 feet of a river or pond, I think it should probably be in there, right?
Where is that
Yeah.
part? Sorry. Which
Under the
section?
orange.
Oh, in the orange, yeah. Oh, right, so talk
Definitely need
about the
200 feet.
200 foot.
Yeah.
I thought it was somewhere else on the other side too.
It is, it's in the what areas are protected.
Protected.
So
Yeah,
where it
it's
says,
in there.
where it says riverfront
Front
areas,
areas.
land within 200 feet of rivers and streams.
Oh, yeah, so it's in there, yeah.
And you might want to put perennial stream. Rivers are protected.
Rivers, ponds, and lakes
Yeah.
are 200.
Okay, so it's rivers.
And maybe
Nice
added
job.
in here too, though,
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
Yeah, excellent job, really.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
it's very nice.
Okay.
And speaking of trees, if you
Yeah.
make a donation to the Arbor Day Foundation, they send you 10 little trees. I got mine in the mail today.
Really?
I've done that. I've done
I
that.
never got the trees though.
I actually have a story for you. I did that when I lived in Randolph for 7 years. And one of the little trees they gave me was a dogwood. So my dad dug it up from Randolph and moved it to Abington. And the thing's 25 feet tall now, and I love that tree, and I always think of my dad. But it's one of their trees.
How do we, how does the printing portion of this work? Like, who do we talk to about it?
We'll have to talk to Scott. He'll make the
Okay.
contact.
Okay.
We can have you make those changes, Justin.
Yep.
And then send that to the consultant.
Okay.
And then that would be, I'm sure it's gonna look, the pictures are gonna look a lot nicer on the paper that they
Yeah.
are gonna use. And they
Yeah,
might
hopefully it's
want
like
the-
glossy.
That's gonna,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
look
yeah.
like gloss paper.
I assume they'll have to make some adjustments to like make it fold and look right when it
They
folds.
might want a
Different
certain
fonts, maybe.
Yep.
DPI and size.
Just,
Oh, like what we want, you mean?
Well, just like, like if, so if you're publishing in a scientific journal, it
Yeah.
will say your figure has to be 300 DPI, has to be this size.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you have,
But I mean, I did it in PowerPoint. I could
Yeah.
send them the PowerPoint. Maybe that's enough. I don't know. Like
I-
they
I
can
just
adjust
find,
things
like,
if they have that, but
when I've done stuff like that or even with my work right now, if I want to put up something that's going to be super official, they'll tell me, you have to give us the highest quality one. Even though I've already got it formatted like in a Word document, they're like, no, we need
yeah.
each one
Oh,
of
yeah.
those. So just be prepared.
Sure. Yeah. No, if they need it, that's
Might
fine.
ask
We'll
you.
figure it out. Yeah.
And speaking of Arbor Day, I did find out from John Stone that we do have some money in the budget for trees. It has to do with the 200-something trees that have fallen down, and they've been trying to get them cleaned up. And I guess there's only 8 left.
Oh, wow.
So technically speaking, we would meet all the requirements. I'm not sure, though, if we can have the time to get it done this year. Because the deadline, I think, is January 31st. And we'd still have to go to the Board of Selectmen and even ask, can we do
Yeah.
this?
You think they would say no,
Oh,
excuse me.
You might know a guy.
I just had one thing on the brochure, and I don't know if we need to do it or not, but homeowner activities in the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and town conservation and regulations. Just a thought. I'll be right back.
okay.
What was the term? Town conservation.
What was it? Homeowner
Regulations?
Activities and National Protection Act. There's also Abington Bylaw, Conservation Commission regulations.
It's very wordy. But I
I think
agree,
you
like,
could just leave it, honestly, because everything is based on the Wetlands Protection Act.
yeah. I mean, I can talk about conservation regulations and bylaws and the, what is the Abington Conservation Commission, maybe? In that section? Just talk, like, mention bylaws. Town.
Or you can even have, you have a little bit of space there under what is the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act.
Yep.
You could even have a say, you know, Abington has additional wetland protection bylaw,
Yeah. Yep.
or their, Abington has additional, has an additional bylaw and regulations, something like that. And then it's under the same umbrella.
Yep.
Yeah. We may not want to have an email address on
Yeah,
there.
because that could change.
Is there a generic email address that
No,
would
we
get?
don't. So I
No?
would just leave the phone numbers.
Okay.
In there.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's a good.
Because the members are gonna change and.
Yep.
Lots of things can change.
Sounds good.
Oh, gosh, we're running late. Just waiting for James.
Oh,
Talk
okay.
about,
The parade?
has everyone looked at the minutes? I'm just gonna,
Yes, and do them all at once
Yeah.
unless there's a change, yeah.
There's two that I wasn't at, so I have to
Yeah.
abstain, I guess, from those, but
okay.
Yeah, so maybe we should do them individually. Some will stay, yeah.
Okay. Well, do we have to wait for Jean to do that?
No, we can
Oh,
do
wait,
it.
no, we do, right,
we've got four of us. He's a voting
but
member.
not for,
Oh, because he wasn't at some of them?
yeah,
So
We can do the
we could
ones-
do August 27th.
okay. Which ones were you not at, Justin?
Well, they're right on the top, so let's just take
Yeah.
them one at a time.
I wasn't at June 25th.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from August 27th. That
Second?
was John, Justin, me, and Lynn, and Jean was there.
Yep.
Okay.
we have a second? All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, all right, one down.
And then, let's go back to June 25th is the next one of my, we need, no, John was here. Oh, John was an associate. So we need to wait for Jean on that one.
April 8th?
April 8th. We need to wait for Jean on that one, too.
What about October 8th?
June 11th, we need, yeah, see, we need Jean on a lot of these.
Okay. All right, we got one approved.
Yeah, we got one done.
Want to speed things up. 93 Summit Road. I believe that was just for an extension. There was no wetlands area. 10 McHugh Circle. I want to discuss that with everybody. Gotta wait for 225 Brockton. Okay, well, we just gotta wait for Jean for everything.
Fishco's.
Okay. All right, that's okay. We had to wait for you for, we got one meeting minutes approved without you.
I'm sorry, but I had an extreme leg cramp and I can't.
Oh, sorry. You want to stand?
I've got a.
Stand at the podium. Tell us your name and address.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vitamin deficiency, what can I say?
Okay. Just really quick, a citizen came up with the idea for a St. Patrick's Day parade float for the Conservation Commission. So I just wanted to see
A
if
citizen, huh?
A citizen,
Uh-huh.
a town resident. Some of you know. So is this something that I thought we could consider? She said she could get a lot of that going. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Kids on there.
And I
can
think
hand
it'd
out
be,
brochures.
hand out brochures.
Yeah, I was gonna say pass out the.
And candy.
No, the candy, you know, we'll pass up brochures. People like,
Yeah,
Vehicle for a float?
No, but I know the Rockland Building Inspector, he might.
So I just
Yeah,
wanted
I'm
to
sure
bring
we'll
that
have
up
a
as
vehicle.
something. We've got.
I think my son has a
months
trailer
before-
though. I think he's got a flat trailer.
I think that citizen probably has some ideas on how to get
Okay.
Yes.
I might be married to that citizen,
Yes.
so
Oh,
I got some
I was gonna-
inside.
Would that
I
be-
have a trailer in the truck too.
Oh, there you go.
excellent.
Okay. So yeah, so we'll get that going if everyone's cool with that. I
Yeah,
don't think that needs a vote.
No.
no.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Building permits, I already talked about 93 Summit. 10 McHugh Circle, they are ready for a pre-construction meeting.
Okay.
They would like it to be done this week. So we could do it, I don't know, set up a time, maybe Thursday?
Yep.
Or Wednesday, that's tomorrow.
Wednesday is out for me because I have, the electrician coming tomorrow, so.
Friday works for me.
Yeah, he said Thursday, Monday through Thursday though.
Oh, Thursday.
Monday was definitely not gonna, I only
I-
found out about it this morning.
Yeah,
I
I'm
could
not
do-
gonna be able to do it Wednesday or Thursday.
Could you do Thursday morning?
What time Thursday? Yeah, Thursday
Like
morning.
9, if we could do like 9 a.m. Thursday morning?
How about 10? Because 9 a.m. I'm out with the chickens.
I don't
No.
think I can do 10.
Do you
no.
have to do it at 9? I can make, all right,
I
9.
could do 11.
Okay, that works. 11 on Thursday?
I won't be able to make it, but John, are you able?
I cannot make it.
How many of us
Thursday.
need to be there? Is too few people or?
No, it doesn't, I mean, no more than 3.
Yeah.
No, 2 was fine, yeah.
2
I
is
have a
fine.
pre-construction
I just want
checklist, too.
everybody to get experience, that's all.
Oh, yeah.
So you'll get back to him on that.
Yeah, I'll say, so Thursday at 11?
Yep.
Yes, that's good, okay.
Yes.
All right, great. And then 225 Brockton Avenue, we went on 3 of us, Jean, myself, and Alex went on a site walk.
Yes.
Why don't you guys take it away?
Oh, yes, so, I printed off Mass Mapper and I brought it with me because I couldn't really remember, but the Stream River, and that's the name of it, isn't that weird? It's
Stream River?
River.
Wow.
Runs behind Auto Country's building, which used to be Leo's Bicycle Shop. And again, it's a perennial river. There's a 200-foot riverfront protection. The owner is very, very nice and wants to cooperate. He wants to get rid of the invasive species, and I believe Alex said, yes, he can pull them out by hand, and I think that's what they were going to do, correct me if I'm wrong. He realizes that he needs to hire a wetland scientist to delineate the wetlands. Obviously, way in the back, whoever his predecessor was, they brought a lot of fill, because it was pretty, you know, it hadn't been there for that long. But he wants to pretty much have the back behind the building is where he could probably do development, because that would be outside of the jurisdiction in a way, but we won't know for sure until the land is delineated. Alex, jump in, because you talked to him more than I
Yeah,
did.
so he's, I think he was renting there, and he was closing on it shortly after we went out there.
Okay.
So I think he was waiting till they close on it, then he was gonna hire somebody to go out there and do a plan and delineate it, and then, once he gets that, he'll be in touch with us.
Yep.
But I think the problem that was out there is gone, and I think the new owner seems like he wants to do the right thing.
Yeah, he was very, very,
Yeah.
I mean, that's all he kept saying was that he just wants to cooperate and do the right thing.
Yeah.
Most of the encroachment that was done by the prior people, you know, we weren't aware of. I wasn't aware of till they actually physically walk out there and you see that reprocessed asphalt was brought further closer to the Auto Country building and there were vehicles parked, but that's prior disturbance. There isn't much we can do about that, but he seemed like a very genuine, nice person, and he just wants to do the right thing, so that was good to hear. That's it.
Okay.
Oh, we had a site visit, John and
Oh,
I.
yeah. Yeah, John, that was at.
Saturday.
Saturday at
Yes.
noon. And
Center
what's the
Street?
address? 90?
92 Central
Central.
Street.
Yes.
Mrs. Gilvanis. She was a very nice
She was
woman.
nice.
Gilvanis, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, she's very nice.
So she met us there and walked us out to the property, and clearly, thank God John was there because he was tromping through closer to the tree than I was. She wanted me to stay over towards the house. I think I typed up a note and I sent it to you. And I sent it to John. It's a codormant tree. I don't know what type it was. A codormant tree means it has two trunks that generate.
Codominant?
Codominant. That generates from one base, and they grow in competition of each other, and they grow at a very narrow angle. And one side was really destroyed. John went over to it and observed it and took some really good pictures. I think we have them available there, or everybody has a copy of them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know if we
They're
got
over there.
copies.
John?
Yeah, there was, like you said with the trees, there's the one on the right side was on the bottom part. It was, you could definitely see there was some termite damage, and through the rest of the trees, there was some woodpecker damage, but it was really breaking apart. The rest of the tree didn't seem too bad. It seemed like it was, it was definitely in danger. If something happened, it would hit the house.
Definitely.
I think we want them to speak to a tree company, maybe get them maybe to do a little trimming on it and see what, what they said on that length. But as far as the tree, it didn't look like really damaged, and it was right next to the river there. So we didn't want, I was impressed that she knew to call us. That was one of my questions. I'm like, how did you know to, get in touch with us? You didn't get the flyer, so that wasn't appropriate. So, but she was very cooperative, and
Yeah.
but you could tell there was, it's this tree did seem like it was not like an imminent danger of like falling, but you could tell there was one part of it that had some like really good termite damage at the bottom on the right-hand side, not towards the house. But I think we did tell her to, maybe, look at a tree guy.
The problem with a codominant tree is that they don't withstand high winds very, very well. So on the stem of the tree that was closest to the house didn't have the termite damage, but yet you could see at the top, there was probably 15 feet up, one branch had already snapped, and further up you could see where there was some branches that were compromised and had broken off. Again, like John said, there was a lot of woodpecker damage and holes, so obviously they're having a field day out there. Her concern is that the stem of the tree that's closest to the house, her bedroom is there, and to me, according to our regulations, if there's a dangerous tree, what you would do, because it's right on the bank of the perennial stream that runs from the wetlands from Kimber Circle and around, you would create a stem and take off the top portion so that there would not be anything falling to her neighbor, who would definitely be get the worst of it, but her house as well, because it is leaning towards her house. At the end of the driveway, there's a very similar tree I observed, and one branch is actually arcing over her driveway, which you're gonna see the same thing probably happen in the future. So, I don't know what the board feels, but I wouldn't want it next to my house, that's all I'd say.
Right, so we can leave a snag behind, like.
Yeah, the snag.
6 to 8 feet or 8 to 10
I don't know if the pictures are here.
I thought they were, and I don't know, this has now become a huge mess.
So is she looking for us to permit her to take the tree down? Is that?
We wouldn't take the tree down per se because of the fact that the root system is right on the bank
Yeah.
of the perennial stream that's
Okay.
there.
Just the rotten side?
No, what they do is they kind of like top the trees and leave like a 10 or whatever. They
Yeah,
leave the actual.
something alive.
Well, it's not alive, it'll probably die eventually, because
Okay.
codormant trees are not, they're very susceptible to high winds, and what happens is each side tries to compete with the other as far as being dominant, and neither one of them succeed, and it ends up,
Okay.
trees are not good.
I think she was looking for us to give her more answers than what she was proposing to do anything as of yet,
I
so.
wish I had done.
So I think what we could do is have her file an RDA
Yeah.
for the next meeting, and in the meantime, get up, get quotes from people,
Yeah.
and get that done for, some nor'easter or something.
I'm trying to see if I can get a good picture of the tree. Is the tree damage that John observed on the
Oh,
two
yeah.
sides?
Yeah.
You can see it,
No, yeah.
and you can see the termite damage in there.
Well, I think stripped.
Yeah, that's the worst side. The other side doesn't have that, but you can see, I'm trying to throw it out. You can see how the branches are being stripped and broken by,
Oh, yeah.
and this side leans toward the house and this side leans to the neighbor, and it's right on the bank.
Okay.
And you can see the woodpecker damage.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, I thought we printed it out.
You did, and I don't know where
I don't either.
it's around here.
Too bad the dependable tree guys aren't here anymore.
I'll tell you what.
I'll give her the file.
Let's make a little deal.
I mean, her concern is that she just doesn't want it crashing through her house, and it's probably 20 feet from her house. And the tree probably is 35 to 40 foot tall.
Yeah.
So what's happening is it just snaps, 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 snaps.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, I think that's what she can do an RDA, we can help her fill it out.
maybe have
Tree.
Tony contact her tomorrow
Yeah.
and let her know, because the sooner, I mean, with the winds that we've had the last few days, that's all that's been on my mind.
Right,
It's kind
yeah.
of concerning.
And then she can get quotes and hopefully we get through and they don't flake out on her, because I had issue with tree. Nobody ever got back to me.
Sad.
I know, I was like, okay. All right, cool, so,
Back to the minutes.
minutes.
April 8th.
8th.
Lynn, Jean, myself, and Justin.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Okay. April 30th.
Lynn, Jean, myself, and Justin.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Okay.
May 30th. Same thing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
And just for those at home, we did get these before the weekend and we all read them. We're not just going right through them.
Correct.
June 11th, the same.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Unanimous?
And June 25th.
Oh, that's not on here.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Nope.
See, July 11th.
That's good, it's nice.
Next one's the 9th.
I don't have copies of those here.
Do we have the 9th and the 23rd?
I've been.
Um,
Not that you need.
no. I think she emailed October 8th. But I don't have a hard copy of that.
Because she made a comment today that she didn't have the July ones, but I thought I looked through everything.
Okay, so. All right, well, we get up to, we're making progress.
A lot of
We
problems.
got through June 11th. Let's hold off on the others.
Oh, yeah, August
She
27th
goes June
done.
through.
Oh my God. I get these.
Yeah, August 27th 's done.
And now September 10th.
June 25th?
It's not on the
Not on the
agenda, so we
agenda.
can't.
Oh, cool,
All right, so we need
It was right to August, I think.
July 9th and 23rd. Do we have those? Were they in the email?
I'm trying to
In Tony's email?
find it.
Yeah, she sent October 8th.
There was another
And
one,
Yeah, October 8th came through.
but she had another
May 30th.
email.
May 30th is in the email. June 11th is in the email.
Yeah, so we did all those.
Did we? Oh, yeah.
So we're looking for July 9th, July 23rd, July 23, September.
October 8th is in the email.
Yeah, I know October 8th is there, September 10th, October 8th.
We have September 10th?
No, I don't have that. We can do October 8th, that was in the email.
Okay.
Motion to accept October 8th.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Okay, so Tony, we will need June 25th on the agenda next time, July 9th, July 23rd, and September 10th.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And correspondence, I don't have anything. Yeah, that's it.
Wonderful.
Just have you guys stay behind for
Signature?
714 Bedford Street, so we'll have signatures for that.
Excellent.
But other than that, can I get a motion to end?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, unanimous.
Thank you.